Chapter 1099. When Zhang Xiaohua was wondering why Yin was so abnormal, she suddenly thought of something and used her divine awareness to scan outside. She saw Zhang Xiaohu, Chang'e, and Chen Shun coming from a distance, talking about something while walking. Oh, I understand. Zhang Xiaohua suddenly realized, Miss O, could it be that you're interested in my second brother? Otherwise, she doesn't have to compromise like this and talk to my mother, an old lady in the countryside. However, looking at Chang'e and Chen Shun, who were beside Zhang Xiaohu, who looked happy, Zhang Xiaohua smiled bitterly again. Second brother has 2 wives, plus Miss O. How can he stand it? Not long after, Zhang Xiaohu and the other 2 people approached, and Zhang Xiaohua greeted them. Seeing Zhang Xiaohua, Zhang Xiaohu said in surprise, You came out? Came out? Zhang Xiaohua curled her lips. Second brother, your words seem to have a special meaning. Could it be you didn't tell the 2 sisters-in-law about it? About it? What about it? Chen Chen asked curiously. Well, Zhang Xiaohu stared at Zhang Xiaohua and said, Don't ask now. It's a serious matter now, and I haven't thought it through yet. Chang'e looked at Zhang Xiaohua with an inquiring look. Zhang Xiaohua nodded. Well, second brother is right, but Zhang Xiaohua took Zhang Xiaohu to the side and whispered, You can't see the mental cultivation methods of the 2 immortals, so I can only tell you. You know that my calligraphy is not presentable. If you want to comprehend it often and practice it like usual martial arts, you must write it down with pen and ink. If Chang'e and Qin Shan don't write it down, who else can you ask to write it down? Zhang Xiaohu patted his forehead and chuckled. Since this morning, I've been dizzy. I don't know whether it's true or not, and I don't know how to say it. Now that you mention it, I really should explain it to them first. That's right. Zhang Xiaohua smiled and said, If you can't trust second sister-in-law, who else can you trust? Then, he thought for a moment and said, Oh right, second brother, you. Zhang Xiaohua hesitated for a while, not knowing how to tell him about Yin. Zhang Xiaohu asked curiously, So, is there anything you're embarrassed to say? Then, he said mysteriously, Are you interested in that female disciple from my Misty school? What's there to be shy about? If there's anything you're too embarrassed to say, just tell your sisters-in-law and ask them to set you up. It's not necessarily worse than a dream. Second brother, Zhang Xiaohua snorted. She pointed her chin at the small courtyard not far away and said, What's wrong with me? You, on the other hand, are in some trouble. Go take a look yourself. I'm in trouble? Zhang Xiaohu was stunned and said, We're already in my Huanqi mountain villa. What trouble can I have? My Huanqi mountain villa? Zhang Xiaohua's mind lit up when he heard this sentence. He instantly understood what Yin was thinking. Zhang Xiaohu ignored Zhang Xiaohua. He pulled the 4 of them into the small courtyard with his hand. From afar, they could hear Yin and Guo Sufei talking, as well as the laughter of Lu Qian and the others. Zhang Xiaohu understood what Zhang Xiaohua meant when he heard it. His face was slightly embarrassed, while Chang'e's face immediately darkened. Zhang Xiaohua walked beside Zhang Xiaohu. Seeing the changes in their expressions, she was surprised and secretly said, Could it be second brother and Miss O, really? Zhang Xiaohu glanced at Chang'e and pushed the door to enter. Everyone in the room heard the sound and turned around to see the 4 of them. They were all happy. Lu Qin said, Xiaohu, why are you so late? Yin has been here for a long time. You're the only ones left in our family. This was very ambiguous. Anyone who heard it would think of another layer of meaning. Yin heard it and immediately stood up. She smiled and said, Sister-in-law, please have a seat. Faction leader Zhang is busy. How can he be idle with us? I thought of this, so I asked the kitchen to prepare dishes to welcome you. I'm sorry to trouble Miss O. Zhang Xiaohu cupped his hands and said, I'm really busy today, so I'm late. Faction leader Zhang, please have a seat. Yin stood up and gave Qiu Tong a look. Then, she said to Zhang Xiaohua, Xiaohua showed up this morning. I haven't seen her for a day. I wanted to bring you some wine to thank you for saving my life, but it's rare for your family to gather. I won't disturb you. As she spoke, she left her seat and was about to leave with Qiu Tong. Guo Sufei saw this and quickly stood up. She urged her to stay. Oh Yin, you haven't finished your meal yet. Why are you in such a hurry to leave? Since we're living together, we're family. Why are you being so polite? Let's finish our meal before you leave. Oh Yin would not stay. She smiled as she walked. Aunt, don't get up. It's a good time for the 3 generations of the Zhang family to gather. Why should I stay? I'll come and see you tomorrow when I'm free. Seeing that Oh Yin was determined to leave, everyone stood up. Oh Yin quickly ran a few steps and said with a smile, Please don't send me off. Please don't send me off. When Zhang Xiaohua saw this, she also quickened her steps and said, Sister Oh, let me send you off. Okay. Oh Yin turned around and bowed to Zhang Kai and Guosufei. Uncle, Aunt, please go back. Xiaohua can send me off. Guosufei smiled and said, That's good too. Oh Yin, have a safe trip. Come back often in the future if you have nothing to do. Oh Yin said a few more polite words and left the courtyard. After a few steps, she smiled at Zhang Xiaohua and said, Xiaohua, you should go back too. The food is getting cold. I'll ask the kitchen to make a few more dishes and have Qiutong send them over. Zhang Xiaohua shook her head. It's okay, Sister Oh. There's a kitchen in the courtyard. Mother and sister-in-law are used to cooking. They'll be ready once it's hot. Okay, that's good too. Oh Yin smiled and said, Your mother may be polite to me and may not tell me if she's not used to it. You're an old friend. If there's anything wrong, tell me immediately. Don't let your mother and father be wronged. Zhang Xiaohua nodded in agreement. After that, Oh Yin didn't let Zhang Xiaohua send her off and left with Qiutong. Although Qiutong had a smile on her face, she didn't say a word to Zhang Xiaohua. When they were far away, Qiutong looked around and couldn't help but say, Miss you. Don't have to do this. Alas. Oh Yin sighed. Times have changed. I'm under someone else's roof. How can I not lower my head? But this Huanqi manor was left to you by the old faction master. It's all in the past. Oh Yin shook her head and said, Huanqi manor and ethereal heights coexist. One is under the faction master, and the other is under the faction master's wife. My brother loves me, and my sister-in-law doesn't want to take care of it. So Huanqi manor has always been in my hands. Now it's faction master Zhang who has 2 wives. This Huanqi manor will be handed over to Chang'e and Chunqin sooner or later. Don't you have Elder Lu and others? They are the grandmasters of faction master Zhang. They're all very partial to Miss. Haha, Qiutong, the rules are the rules. No one can break them. Since I don't have much to do with the Misty school, why should I covet their Huanqi manor? Faction master Zhang's family is very good. If I live here, maybe they won't object. But Chang'e knows that Jingyi Nun arranged the marriage, so she must have a grudge. If she doesn't agree, even if faction master Zhang suppresses it, it will be a hindrance to the couple. Maybe I really have to wander around the world. Miss, don't be afraid. I'm here. Even if something happens, I'll accompany you to wander around the world. Haha, it's not. I guess it's all my guess. Oh Yin smiled, and there was still melancholy in her laughter. Oh Yin and Qiutong talked and gradually went away. Zhang Xiaohua's figure gradually appeared from the treetops by the roadside. She looked at Oh Yin and Qiutong, who were already far away, and sighed. A girl's heart is really meticulous. Why didn't I think more about it? When Zhang Xiaohua returned to the small courtyard, everyone had almost finished eating. Zhang Xiaohua also sat down and casually ate a few mouthfuls. She couldn't help but ask, Second brother? Then she wanted to say something but stopped. She looked at Chang'e and said, Forget it. Second sister-in-law, I'd better ask you, why did Jingyi Nun arrange the marriage? Arranged marriage? Everyone was stunned. Zhang Xiaohua blushed and looked at Chang'e, asking, Xiaohua, you heard it from Oh Yin? Zhang Xiaohua shook her head and said, Oh Yin told me. Why should I ask you? As he spoke, he repeated what he had just heard. Alas, poor child. Hearing this, Guosufei said first, Since she saw us in the morning, she has been accompanying Xiaoxin. I thought she and I hit it off. It turns out, alas, Guosufei sighed and looked at Chang'e and Chen Chun without saying anything. Chang'e's face turned red and she explained, Misso, you're overthinking. How could As she spoke, Chang'e recounted everything that had happened on Lingxiang Peak. When Zhang Xiaohua saw that her second brother had been poisoned, she only thought that Abbess Jingyi had forced him to do so. Now that she heard the story, she knew that there were so many things that had happened. Xiaohu, you're poisoned, Zhang Kai asked anxiously. It's okay. Xiaohua's cured it, Zhang Xiaohu said with a smile. Hearing that the poison had been cured, everyone was relieved. Chang'e continued to explain, not to mention that Yin is Master O's sister. I and other disciples of Misty School respect Master O very much. Who will treat her badly? Even if Chen Shan and I take over Huanqi Villa, it will be in the future. Now the Misty School is not stable. Xiaohu can't think about other things. When everyone heard the reason, they already knew Yin and Chang'e's feelings. So, they didn't say anything more. They just advised, what others think is their own business. You just need to do your own business. Chang'e was happy. Today it's peaceful, but who knows what will happen in a year or 10 years. Maybe. Zhang Xiaohua didn't want to think too much, but she was still worried about Yan's situation. Yan's situation was really awkward. After dinner, Zhang Xiaohua found a room for herself. She called Zhang Xiaohu, Chang'e, and Chen Shen over and told them that Zhang Xiaohu had already set foot on the path of immortality. Please tip me. Thank you. -4. Chapter 1100. Really? Chang'e was overjoyed. She grabbed Zhang Xiaohu's hand and shouted. Zhang Xiaohu couldn't hide the smile on his face and nodded with a smile. Then, Senior brother, aren't you more powerful than Master O? Chen Chen's eyes were full of longing. Of course, I can't compare with Master O now, but if you give me a few more years, I'll definitely be more powerful than Master O, Zhang Xiaohua said with a smile. How old is Master O? How old is Xiaohu? When he's as old as Master O, then he'll be one of the most powerful people in Jianghu. Why didn't you tell us about this earlier? Chang'e complained. Alas, to tell you the truth, didn't I tell you just now? I was so surprised that I felt dizzy all day and walked like a feather. I didn't know how to tell you. Zhang Xiaohu explained. However, I heard from Xiaohua that I just entered the way of immortality by chance and haven't mastered the cultivation method. It's not worth mentioning at all. So, I have to ask you too. My wife's to do me a favor. Chang'e and Qinshan were shy and said, My husband, please tell us what you want. Zhang Xiaohu told them about the Heart Sutra. Chang'e and Qinshan certainly agreed. Great. Zhang Xiaohua clapped her hands and said, In the next few days, second brother, you should practice the blade-breaking force and learn how to use the genuine qi. Don't look at the qi drawing and qi refining first. After you finish writing the Kuan Ping's Edge and Nishan Heart Sutra, you can carefully understand and practice them. Well, I'll listen to you. Zhang Xiaohu said with a smile. I'll leave the rest of my life to you. Well, Zhang Xiaohua bared her teeth and said, Then make me an elder of your Misty School. You really want to? Zhang Xiaohu said, With your divine ability, I can definitely stand my ground against all opposition. Forget it, forget it. Zhang Xiaohua waved her hand. I'm already inseparable from Misty School, so there's no need for these superficial things. All right, what kind of pill are you refining? There were quite a few spiritual herbs in the medicine hall. They were all found by the Righteous Alliance from who knows where. They were all quite old. Do you want some? Oh, I don't need it for the time being. When I need it, I can get it myself. Zhang Xiaohua didn't treat herself as an outsider. Then, he suddenly thought of something and said, Oh right, there really is something I need to trouble you with. What is it? Zhang Xiaohu nodded. Second brother, do you still remember that before we went to Shizue Mountain to save people, we saved a middle-aged man who was a performer from the bullies in Lu Town? Oh, I remember him. He brought a little monkey with him. He sold medicinal plasters. Zhang Xiaohu thought for a moment and said, I remember that he gave you the pill formula. It's that pill formula. It's the pill formula for the bone condensation pill. I used it to refine the bone condensation pill. There's a positive karma? Zhang Xiaohu said in surprise. This man who was a performer can be considered a benefactor to Misty School. If you want to say it like that, it can be considered a bit. Zhang Xiaohua said, This man is called Chu Zhigao. He lives in Dragon Mountain. Second brother, find a disciple to go and bring them over. It's not safe there. He has a child called Jing. I plan to take him in. Okay, I got it. Zhang Xiaohu nodded. Chu Zhigao is skilled in alchemy. It's also suitable for him to enter my Misty School's medicine hall. Don't even think about it. He's already marked with my Beidou School's label. You can't snatch him away even if you want to. Zhang Xiaohua said with a smile. Then, she asked, oh right, second brother, it's been a while. The Righteous Alliance doesn't seem to have any news? Zhang Xiaohu was also at a loss. Yes, my Misty School is united. We're just waiting for the Righteous Alliance's troops. But the Righteous Peak is as stable as Mount Tai. I don't know what Zhang San is thinking. Forget it. Ignore him. We'll deal with it as it comes. We'll deal with it by sticking to the status quo. Zhang Xiaohua waved his hand. Now, you should think about how to improve your cultivation. Therefore, in the following 10 days, Zhang Xiaohua dictated Kuren Pong Transformation and Nishan Heart Sutra every day and had Chang'e and Chun Chan copy one each. Then, he explained to Zhang Xiaohu how to sense the vitality of the world and draw it into the body. After that, he escaped into the Misty School's Misty Palace and focused on refining his soul-absorbing pill. On the Righteous Peak, Zhang Xiaohu and the others had been worried about the Righteous Alliance. At this time, there was a lot of discussion. Reporting to Alliance Master Zhang, I think that this matter of the Misty School must not be started. Since Nanjing Yi of the Fragrance Cult has already said that the Misty School has reopened and has nothing to do with the Fragrance Cult, then we must give them a thunderous blow and let the Jianghu know that the Righteous Alliance is not to be trifled with. Otherwise, with the Misty School as a precedent, the various gangs in the future will not be easy to manage. Some people with unfathomable motives may seek refuge with the Fragrance Cult, or even between the clouds and the water. Vice Alliance Master Mi is right. I think so too. The Misty School must not be set as an example. Another Vice Alliance Master, who was slightly younger, also clamored. But it's been many days since Alliance Master Zhang came back from the incense cult. Why haven't we seen Alliance Master Zhang arrange the troops and deploy the elites? A mere Misty School. A few years ago, the Righteous Alliance might have been worried, but now, the older generation of disciples have been crippled of their martial arts. How can the remaining new disciples be a match for us? That's right. The Fragrance Cult's martial arts assembly has a great influence. If the Righteous Alliance doesn't feel comfortable, I'm afraid we'll fall behind. In the main hall, only Alliance Master Zhang San sat at the head of the table with a gloomy face. His eyes seemed to be looking at the Vice Alliance Masters below him, but his eyes were empty. No one knew what he was thinking. Vice Alliance Master Chai, who only had one arm left, frowned a few times. He wanted to refute, but when he saw Zhang San's expression, he gritted his teeth and endured it. As expected, a tall and thin old man spoke again. Alliance Master Zhang, you should say something. Since the establishment of the Righteous Alliance, when have we ever suffered such a great loss? But ever since we destroyed the Misty School, things have never gone well. Not to mention, when we destroyed the Misty School, Vice Alliance Master Mi's martial arts were greatly damaged, and Vice Alliance Master Chai lost an arm. Later, our Vice Alliance Master Nan mysteriously disappeared. Other than a burn mark, there was no trace of him. Until now, we haven't found anything. These losses are fine. Our Righteous Alliance also obtained the Misty School's Misty Mountain Villa. It can be considered as compensation. But in these years, the Misty School's forbidden area, who knows how many brothers have died? They didn't even get a single bit of their immortal inheritance. And now, the Fragrance Cult actually backstabbed us. They sent out all the disciples of the Misty School to take up the Misty School's banner again. Is there any need to say more? Everyone in the Jianghu knows that they are obviously targeting our Righteous Alliance. This Misty School must be a branch of the Fragrance Cult. Don't you have any idea what the Fragrance Cult is doing? If you don't do anything, not only will the Misty Mountain Villa be taken away by the Fragrance Cult, even the Righteous Peak will be taken away by Jingyi. How dare you? Vice Alliance Master Chai finally couldn't take it anymore. He pointed at the tall and thin old man and said angrily, You Zhan Fei, you're so noisy. Don't think everyone here is a fool who doesn't know what you mean. What I mean? Vice Alliance Master, you sneered. What can I mean? I'm just anxious to see the righteous alliance declining day by day. Sigh. Alliance Master Zhang San's face turned cold. He then sighed and waved his hand. Stop talking. Then he looked at Vice Alliance Master Yu and said with a sneer, what should I do according to Vice Alliance Master Yu's plan? This. Vice Alliance Master Yu was slightly startled. He probed, is there any need to say? I'm sure Alliance Master Zhang San already has a plan in mind. Please enlighten me, Vice Alliance Master Yu. Alliance Master Zhang San smiled and said. Vice Alliance Master Yu rolled his eyes and said with a smile, since Alliance Master Zhang San wants me to say it, I'll throw a brick to attract jade. Then he cleared his throat and said, in my opinion, first, you should send a disciple to inform Vice Alliance Master Ban of the news of the Misty School's reappearance so that he can be prepared. Even if the Misty School arrives before I rescue them, they can still hold on for some time. Second, send the green flame token as reinforcements immediately. Send the forces of the Righteous Alliance near Pingyang City as reinforcements. It's best to attack from both inside and outside so that the Misty School will be attacked from both sides. Third, Alliance Master Zhang San can give the order for all the elite disciples of the Righteous Peak to come out in full force and exterminate the Misty School's disciples. But fourth? Alliance Master Zhang San laughed coldly. Fourth. If Alliance Master Zhang San is worried about the fragrance cult, you can send a portion of your disciples to ambush the fragrance cult on the way to Pingyang City. If the fragrance cult sends reinforcements, you can wipe them out. Not bad. But fifth? I'm slow-witted and can only think of this. If Alliance Master Zhang San has a better idea, please let me know. Vice Alliance Master Yu's tone was weak before he regained his composure. Vice Alliance Master Yu has worked hard to guard the Righteous Alliance while we were away at the fragrance cult. Alliance Master Zhang San praised. I don't dare to claim credit for myself. It's all thanks to Alliance Master Zhang San. Vice Alliance Master Yu said proudly. But it's because Vice Alliance Master Yu didn't go to the fragrance cult and didn't participate in the martial arts circle assembly that you don't know that the pugilistic world of today is no longer the pugilistic world of the past. Alliance Master Zhang San said sadly, I've long thought of what Vice Alliance Master Yu said. When I left the fragrance cult, I've already sent a disciple to pass the message to Vice Alliance Master Ban of the Ethereal Peak and to the Green Flame token. Of course, it's not like what Vice Alliance Master Yu said. We just need them to adapt to the situation and preserve the strength of the Righteous Alliance. Moreover, the 4 high priests of the Righteous Alliance have also gone to the Green Flame token. If there are no accidents, the disciples of the Misty School, even if they manage to take the Ethereal Peak, they'll have to pay a huge price. Alliance Master Zhang San has great foresight. I'm impressed, Vice Alliance Master Yu said regretfully. But you should listen to the news that Vice Alliance Master Chai just received. Alliance Master Zhang San waved his hand expressionlessly. Please vote for me, vote for me, vote for me, vote for me, vote for me. Thank you. If you like this work, you're welcome to vote for me at Chidian. Com. -4. Chapter 11:01. Vice Leader Chai looked at Vice Leader Yu in disdain and said, Vice Leader Yu, Alliance Leader Zhang had already considered what you said and had already prepared a countermeasure. But, according to the news I just received, Ethereal Peak was still occupied by the disciples of Misty School. None of our Righteous Alliance disciples managed to escape. That's impossible. Vice Leader Yu was shocked. The disciples of Misty School are all young. How? Io, that old beggar Jingy. Did she do something again? Vice Leader Yu only thought of it now? Vice Leader Chai mocked. Alliance Leader Zhang had already expected this. That's why he allowed our Righteous Alliance disciples to do whatever they wanted. Of course I thought of it. Vice Alliance Leader Yu scoffed and argued. Could it be that the Alliance Leader's message hasn't arrived yet? Of course not. Vice Leader Chai said. According to the messenger disciple, he did not receive any message from our Righteous Alliance regarding the Misty School. What does this mean? Alliance leader Zhang San looked at Vice leader Yu and asked, "This? I guess the disciples of Fragrance Cult laid an ambush along the way." Vice leader Yu said hesitantly. "Vice leader Yu, you're wrong again. It's not the disciples of Fragrance Cult. It's the disciples of Misty School." Vice leader Chai corrected him. That old beggar Jingyi actually sent 2 inner disciples and thousands of outer disciples to Misty School to become disciples of Misty School. Under the leadership of a Misty School disciple named Zhang Xiaohu, they ran all the way and ambushed our Righteous Alliance without alerting anyone. Vice Alliance Master Yu sucked in a breath of cold air. Jingyi is really thick-skinned. There's nothing thick-skinned about it. Alliance leader Zhang San waved his hand. If it were me, I would have sent my vice leader too. This is nothing.
But
Vice leader Yu said, didn't Alliance leader Zhang say that the 4 great consecrators of our Righteous Alliance were nearby? They even had the green flame token. Even if they acted at their own discretion, it's impossible that they were no match for them. According to reports, on that day, an immortal Dao expert from Misty Peak killed Vice Alliance leader Ban and the 4 great reverends. Vice Alliance leader Chai said expressionlessly. Ah? Vice Alliance leader Yu was stunned. After a moment, he said, is he the same person as the immortal Dao expert from Rejuvenation Valley? Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. How can my messenger disciple tell the difference? It must be the incense cult's doing. If he's not an immortal expert from the incense cult, why would he help the Misty School? Vice Alliance leader Yu, please calm down. I have another piece of news. What? There's more? Yes, my Righteous Dao Alliance's Azure Flame Medallion. The disciples in the Evil Tiger Villa, including Vice Alliance leader Jiang, were all killed. Ah? Shi Chui Mountain, where the blue flame token belongs, has been completely annihilated. Shi Chui Mountain? Vice Alliance leader Yu was confused. It is also near Pingyang City. Vice Alliance leader Chai did not explain. They were all burned to ashes. This is similar to Vice Alliance leader Nan's disappearance. Vice Alliance leader Yu, after hearing this, what do you think? Alliance leader Zhang San laughed coldly. Vice Alliance leader Yu's forehead was covered in cold sweat. He cupped his fists and said, I didn't know that things would turn out this way. It's really damn it. Don't blame yourself, Vice Alliance leader Yu. You didn't go to the incense cult and didn't see the immortal Dao's methods. Naturally, you don't know how powerful the immortal Dao is. Alliance leader Zhang San smiled and comforted him. I saw the incense cult, the Dalan Temple, and between the clouds and the water and the Tenryu sect's methods. Only then did I realize that my martial arts path was bleak. It's really like looking at the sky from the bottom of a well. That's why I ordered Vice Alliance leader Ban to act at his discretion. Sigh, it's a pity. It's still too late. That old beggar Jingyi is really despicable. I already said that the incense cult wouldn't do anything. Why did they still send an immortal expert to Pingyang City? If that immortal expert didn't make a move, the Misty School would have suffered greatly this time. Vice Alliance leader Chai said hatefully. That's right. Jingyi only sent 2 inner disciples and a bunch of outer disciples. She didn't even send any disciples from Emotian Palace. Isn't she relying on her so-called immortal expert? Alliance leader Zhang San said thoughtfully that immortal expert first destroyed the between the clouds and the water that surrounded Rejuvenation Valley. Then, he killed the Righteous Alliance's forces around the Misty School. Isn't it all because of that old beggar Jingyi? The immortal Dao. Vice Alliance leader Yu was melancholic. Our Righteous Alliance is congenitally deficient. Haha, congenitally deficient can be made up for later. Alliance leader Zhang San said with a smile. He clearly wasn't as dispirited as Vice Alliance leader Yu. Alliance leader Zhang, what do you mean? Vice Alliance leader Yu was delighted. Nothing. Alliance Master Zhang San sneered. Even if my Righteous Dao Alliance is an immortal Dao Alliance, 3 of our 8 Vice Alliance Masters have already fallen. If a few more harbor disloyalty, how can my Righteous Dao Alliance roam the pugilistic world? I wouldn't dare. Vice Alliance leader Yu's expression changed drastically. He stood up and said, although my words are a little extreme, I am still loyal to the Righteous Alliance. Alliance Leader Zhang San, Vice Alliance Leader you don't have to be like this. I was just saying. Zhang San stood up and walked in front of Vice Alliance Leader Yu. He pressed Vice Alliance Leader Yu into a chair and said with a smile, "The 9 alliance leaders of our Righteous Alliance have always worked together to make our Righteous Alliance a super sect in the pugilistic world. It is also the only martial arts sect other than the Immortal Tao Legacy sections. We also have a place in the Pugilistic World Convention. Vice Alliance Leader, you didn't get to see such a grand occasion because you were guarding the Righteous Peak. It is a pity that our Righteous Alliance didn't get to see such a grand occasion." Vice Alliance Leader Yu's expression relaxed. He smiled and said, "I wouldn't dare. This is also my effort." "Haha, this is everyone's effort." Zhang San smiled and said. Then, his expression turned cold. "However, if anyone really has ulterior motives, I won't let them off." Vice Alliance Leader Yu's relaxed expression tensed up again. "That's right. Alliance Leader Zhang San, what did you mean by innate deficiencies can be made up for later?" Mekong, who looked a little dispirited, asked curiously. "Haha," Alliance Leader Zhang San smiled and said, "This is an opportunity that the heavens have given to our Righteous Alliance." As he said that, he looked at Vice Alliance Leader Chai. Vice Alliance Leader Chai continued, "Brothers, I'll let you know that when the messenger disciple was on his way back to the Righteous Tao Alliance, he was resting at night and coincidentally saw a rainbow-colored brilliance in the sky above the southwest of Pingyang City, illuminating the entire night sky. A rare treasure has appeared?" The others were curious. "That's right. That disciple observed it for several days. Every night, there would be a bright light. It is exactly the same as the legendary rare treasure of the Immortal Tao. Rare treasures from the heavens can only be obtained by the virtuous. This opportunity does not only belong to the Immortal Tao sections. If our Righteous Alliance obtains it, we might be able to reach the heavens in one step." Alliance Leader Zhang San, is this reliable? Is it really a rare treasure? Haha, the spies from the Dalan Temple and the Incense Cult have also sent news. These 2 sects are doing something big. Do you think this is a rare treasure of the Immortal Tao? What about between the clouds and the water? Between the clouds and the water? They have just made a name for themselves in the pugilistic world. There is no news of their movements for now. However, if our Righteous Alliance knows about this, how can they not know? Alliance Leader Zhang San waved his hand and said, "Let's not care about them for now. Vice Alliance Leaders, this is an important matter. I need to go down the mountain personally and bring all the elites with me. Does anyone have any other opinions?" Vice Alliance Leader Me hesitated and asked, "But what about the Misty School? We can't let them do whatever they want." "Don't worry, Vice Alliance Leader Me. I know that you have suffered a great loss at Ethereal Peak and are still brooding about it. Listen to me." Alliance Leader Zhang San understood Mekong's desire for revenge and whispered a few words in his ear. Mekong's face lit up. He cupped his hands and said, "Alliance Leader Zhang San is wise. I admire that old beggar Jing Yi's efforts were in vain." Vice Alliance Leader Yu wanted to know the details but was afraid that Zhang San would think too much. He could only pretend that he did not hear anything. "All right, Vice Alliance Leader Yu. You still have a heavy responsibility to guard the Righteous Peak and look after the rear of our Righteous Alliance." Alliance Leader Zhang San waved his hand and said, "I will wait for the day when we obtain the rare treasure. I will remember your great contribution." "I dare not. I am afraid." Vice Alliance Leader Yu stood up and bowed. Between the clouds and the water that Alliance Leader Zhang San mentioned was much faster than the Righteous Alliance. However, Bai Yinxiu, who was on the way, received the report from the messenger disciple. He could not help but have a strange expression. He turned to Li Su of Huiming Hall and said, "Li, the appearance of the immortal abode has caused such a huge commotion. It is beyond my expectations. It is just that even Ancestral Master Huan did not expect this. This is a little troublesome." "Haha, congratulations, sect leader. The bigger the commotion, doesn't it mean that the immortal abode is more useful? If between the clouds and the water obtains it, won't the entire pugilistic world, the entire immortal Tao belong to me in the future? Ha ha ha, Hall Master Li is right. Bai Yinxiu also laughed and said, I'm also feeling both happy and worried. Fortunately, I received the message from the ancestral master and have already made arrangements. However, Ren Xiaoyao from the incense cult seems to know about this. I wonder, rest assured, sect leader. Ren Xiaoyao left the incense cult on the night of the Pugilistic World Convention. He might have gone to the Tenryu sect. I don't know his exact whereabouts. In other words, the incense cult does not know the whole story? Bai Yinxiu said thoughtfully. But, if the Tenryu sect intervenes, things will be difficult. The incense cult has also taken action. But, I don't know if they know the whole story. Li Su said respectfully. However, the Tenryu sect? Even if they want to intervene, as long as we obtain the immortal abode, will we still be afraid of them? Li is right. By the way, sect leader, the remnants of the Misty School have recaptured the Misty Mountain Villa with the help of the incense cult disciples. Then, the immortal Tao Master who appeared in the Rejuvenation Valley appeared again, and killed one of the Righteous Alliance's deputy leaders and 4 old masters. Haha, I knew it. This immortal Tao Master must be from the incense cult. Even if he wanted to deceive people, he should have done it secretly. Abbess Jing Yi is really old. By the way, Li, send some disciples to the mountains with my sect leader's token and invite some old immortals to come out. The incense cult has already sent immortals, so we have to show some sincerity. Please vote monthly, recommend, bookmark, and tip. Thank you. -4. Chapter 1102. It was just as Bai Yinxiu and Zhang San had expected. On Lingxiang Peak, in Emotian's palace, Nanjing Yi looked at the sky outside the palace with an unknown expression and was in a daze.
Cough, cough.
Chen sat for a long time and coughed a few times. Chang'e glared at her, but Chen Shun looked innocent and rubbed her nose. She seemed to have caught a cold. Alas, the appearance of spreading incense and the chaos of Jianghu. These words, I don't know who said it. Nanjing Yi came back to her senses and said softly, before the formation of spreading incense collapsed, there was a big change in Huanshu. An unknown senior of the immortal path actually appeared. Outside Rejuvenation Valley, the flying sword killed the enemy. I didn't want to guess, but this senior actually came to Misty Peak. He killed a deputy leader and 4 consecrators of the Righteous Alliance with just a wave of his hand. Now we know that Longting Villa was instructed by between the clouds and the water. This senior of the immortal path has helped spreading incense several times. But why can't I remember that there is a senior with such magical powers in spreading incense? Abbess Jingfan and Abbess and Jingyi reminded, could it be the 2 Taishang elders? Absolutely not. Nun Jingyi shook her head. The vitality of heaven and earth is scarce. Even primordial stones are rare. Even if the 2 grand elders have endless magical powers, but any magical power requires the consumption of vital energy. The grand elders can't afford it. Moreover, the 2 grand elders have been living in seclusion in Evergreen Valley for decades and have never seen outsiders. They definitely can't come out. Chang'e, Chen Shun, and the others seem to have already heard about the news of the incense cult's grand elder. Their faces didn't show any surprise, but Chen Shun said in a low voice, the grand elders are all women, but that immortal expert is a man. This is a big difference. Nun Jingyi looked at Chen Shun and said calmly, there was a man among the grand elders, but he died many years ago. Abbess Shuezhen chimed in, sect leader, you're overthinking. Since this immortal expert is closely related to our fragrant order, he's a friend and not an enemy. Sect leader, shouldn't you be happy? The problem is that the 2 grand elders are all stingy with their magic power. They don't care about ordinary Jianghu grudges. They only care about how to cultivate. But this one is really an anomaly. I can't help but worry. Are you worried that this senior will get involved in the grudges of the Jianghu and drag my incense cult into it? Jingfan Shurdai said with a smile, cult leader Darren, don't forget the 2 Taishang you mentioned just now. If they make a move, do you think we'll be afraid of him? Abbess Jingyi smiled bitterly. The 2 grand elders only listen to the orders of the cult leader, and the number of times I can order them is limited. Unless it's a matter of life and death for the cult of fragrance, they can't be used. Then why did sect leader just issue the sect leader's order? Qin Shun asked curiously. Our incense cult is now as stable as a rock in the Jianghu. Why is it a matter of life and death? Peacock, you tell her. Abbess Jingyi said. It was unknown whether she was disdainful to tell Chen Chun, or whether she wanted to test Peacock's discipline. Yes, sect leader Darren. Peacock stood up and bowed. She said, after the news of the Misty School's disciples attacking the Misty Peak, I heard about the colorful brilliance appearing in the night sky near Yaoshan. Although I didn't see it with my own eyes, it has been happening for several days. It must be a strange sign of a celestial artifact being unearthed. In the celestial world, a celestial artifact with such a strange sign is extremely powerful and has incredible effects. If any sect obtains it, it will be like a tiger growing wings and its strength will increase. Does sect leader Darren want to obtain the celestial artifact, so you invited the 2 grand elders? Qinshin thought about it. Abbess Jingyi nodded slightly and then shook her head. Peacock is right. What I'm referring to is the strange sign in the sky. It's just that, if it's something with such a strange sign, it's not a celestial artifact, but a celestial artifact. A celestial artifact that's much more powerful than a celestial artifact.
And
Peacock also underestimated the significance of this strange sign. Abbess Jingyi said excitedly, long before the founder of our sect, Yu Mingxin, left a jade slip in Imo Xian's palace, saying something about immortal mansion. Immortal mansion? Chun Chen exclaimed, This is impossible. Nothing is impossible. Abbess Jingyi smiled. According to Yu Mingxin, the matter of immortal mansion is extremely secretive. She thought that she was the only one who knew about it, but she didn't expect that the Misty School was built in the Misty Peak, which is near Yaoshan. There isn't any paradise there. Since the founder of the Misty School, Yang Haoya, chose that place, he must have sensed something. Therefore, Yu Mingxin made it clear that she and Yang Haoya were old friends. If the Misty School were to take action, the incense sect wouldn't have to do anything. Why? Qin Chun asked curiously. Such a big immortal mansion. Whoever has the ability can have it. You little girl, you don't even listen to the founder's words? Abbess Jingyi scolded, but there was no anger in her tone. Abbess Xuezhen bit her lip and thought for a moment, then said in a low voice, Yu Mingxin didn't say that we can't destroy the Misty School. Hee, junior sister Xuezhen is right. Abbess Jingyi narrowed her eyes and smiled. If the Xindao sect can be destroyed, why can't the Misty School be destroyed? If the Misty School is destroyed, this immortal mansion, won't there be no one to fight with the incense sect? Everyone gasped and secretly admired her. After a long while, Abbess Jingfan said, Leader, I really admire you. At first, I thought that we had no choice but to join the Righteous Alliance and destroy the Misty School. Junior sister Jingfan, you're wrong. What we said before was the original intention. We didn't intend to destroy the Misty School at first. The Immortal Mansion has been around for tens of thousands of years, and it hasn't appeared. We don't have the ability to predict the future, so how could we know that the Immortal Mansion would appear at this time? What we did before was indeed for the future of the Incense Sect. We hoped to find a way to save the Incense Sect from the secluded plane. But now, the method hasn't been found, and the protective array has collapsed first. We have to be ruthless and seize the Misty School in our hands. Although the Misty Peak is useless, it has an innate geographical location and is very close to the secluded plain and Yaoshan. If we can obtain such convenient conditions, not only will the strength of the Incense Sect increase, but it will also be a blow to the Righteous Alliance. Why not?
but
Leader announced to the entire Jianghu. The reconstruction of the Misty School has nothing to do with the Incense Sect. Chunchen asked, Haha, we went to Yaoshan and didn't go to the Misty Peak. We also didn't meet Zhang Xiaohu alone. Who can say that behind our back? Then when do we set off? We can't let others snatch this immortal mansion. Qin Chun said anxiously. Don't worry. The immortal mansion hasn't been seen for tens of thousands of years. It's impossible for it to appear in these few days. Moreover, even if it appears, it's not something that can be entered at will. Let's wait for the elders to come up and set off together. Junior sister Jingfan, I'll have to trouble you with all the affairs of the incense sect. In the Dalan Temple, there was a similar scene. But the Dalan Temple didn't seem to have the inheritance of the three sections. It was estimated that it was an extremely precious magic weapon, but no one expected it to be a immortal mansion. In the main hall of the Tenryu sect, the demigods and semi-devils were all present. The voice of Sakura sounded in the empty sky. Kanara has already told us about the Misty Peak and Yaoshan. What do you think, heavenly kings? The tall Azura had been impatient for a long time. When he heard this, he laughed and said, "Do you still need me to say it? Let's go directly and seize the magic weapon of the Tenryu sect. No matter whether we can use it or not, we'll leave it in the Tenryu sect, so that no one can use it against the Tenryu sect in the future." I have the same thoughts as Azura. This is the time to fish in troubled waters. We should let the boy go out to relax, and let the whole Jianghu experience the power of the Tenryu sect. Ha ha ha, Heavenly King Yaksha is right. Our Tenryu sect hasn't been in the Jianghu for a long time, so the boy under you must be itching for a fight. However, you're all thinking too much. This thing in Yaoshan isn't an object, but an immortal mansion. Immortal mansion? The heavenly kings were all shocked. Azura asked curiously, "This? How does Sakura know about this? I haven't seen any records of it in the sect." Hee, this, you don't need to know. Sakura laughed. You only need to know that this is a very useful immortal mansion. An immortal mansion is useless to our demonic sect. What do we need it for? Garuda asked curiously. Hee, Garuda, could it be that you were beaten silly by the people of the immortal sect? If that immortal mansion is obtained by others, wouldn't it be a great threat to our Tenryu sect? And this immortal mansion has a great use for me. You'll know when the time comes. Garuda's face turned slightly red when he heard this. He only said in a low voice, "That person of the immortal sect is also strange. He killed the people of the Longting Villa and still wanted to save the little girl from the incense cult. Recently, I heard that he even helped the Misty School to kill the deputy chief of the Righteous Alliance. I really don't know. How did this immortal sect survive?" Hee, Garuda, don't worry. This person of the immortal sect won't be able to jump around for more than a few days. When I kill that guy one day, I'll vent your anger for you. Sakura's words were very strange, making the heavenly kings puzzled. Sakura, why do you say that? Garuda asked curiously. Were we forbidden from provoking the people of the immortal sect in the past? Why did they change their nature now? It seems like they're going to start a massacre. Sakura only listened and didn't answer. Gandharv also asked, Sakura, where's our saintess? Is the treatment effective these few days? Why don't I see her coming out? Naturally, it's effective. Sakura smiled. The saintess has gradually recovered her memory. It's just that she's a little depressed these few days and doesn't want to come out. Then, he said, Heavenly Kings, the incense cult has appeared and the Jianghu is in chaos. Our Tenryu sect should also join in the fun. Please vote monthly, please vote recommendation, please collect, please tip, thank you. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote recommendation and monthly. -4. Chapter 1103. The rainbow-colored glow of Yao Mountain appeared every night. It was not a taboo, and even ordinary passers-by could see it, not to mention the people of Jianghu. Since the great sects of the Immortal Path and the Tenryu sect were so interested in Yao Mountain's immortal abode, how could the small sects of Jianghu not covet it as well? This was especially true for those who had been to the Huayu Palace of the incense cult and had seen the immortal Dao technique. Their sect leaders and elders were burning with passion. They racked their brains and mobilized the resources of their entire sect to analyze their strengths and weaknesses. They tried their best to seize the opportunity to compete for the heavenly bestowal treasure. For a moment, the entire Jianghu was in a state of turmoil. Various forces flocked to Yao Mountain, but at that moment, Yao Mountain changed again. The rainbow-colored glow gradually disappeared, and it no longer appeared at night. Was it a rumor spread by others? Or had it been taken by the great sects of the Immortal Path? Or had the Immortal Path's treasure not been born yet? In short, all kinds of opinions appeared again. However, no matter what, the entire Jianghu would definitely turn out in full force. Even if they couldn't go to Yaoshan for the time being, they would attract the attention of others. All the sects would still send their elite disciples to Yaoshan and other sects to gather information and exchange information. In short, no one was willing to retreat so easily. If the treasure suddenly appeared and they missed it, it would be too late for regrets. But the Misty School, which was closest to Yao Mountain, did not make any moves. But this calmness was only a facade in the eyes of the people of Jianghu. They believed that under the calm, there was an undercurrent. If the newly re-established Misty School wanted to stand firm, if it did not withstand the counterattack of the Righteous Alliance, and if it did not effectively mesh the two forces within the sect, it would never become a true Misty School. Just as Jingyi expected, Mingqing and the other disciples of the incense cult had long been known by the people of Jianghu. But the disciples of the incense cult admired the Misty School and voluntarily joined the Misty School. The incense cult was generous and gave these people a chance. Who could say anything? Incense cult. The strength they displayed during the martial arts tournament was not something that normal wanderers would dare to slander them. Of course, these were all the discussions and guesses of the people of Jianghu. Inside the Misty School, it was still calm and peaceful. The disciples of the two sects were cultivating and guarding their own rooms. There were no disturbances. On this day, Zhang Xiaohu was in the conference hall. Just as he was about to call Du Feng and the others over, he heard a voice behind him. "Second brother, I have news for you. Come to the secret room behind the conference hall." Needless to say, it was Zhang Xiaohua who was hiding her figure. Zhang Xiaohu nodded slightly. Looking at the empty meeting hall, he got up and went to the secret chamber. Before Zhang Xiaohua could say anything, Zhang Xiaohu said first, "Don't tell me the news first. I have something to tell you." Zhang Xiaohua asked curiously, "What's the matter?" Zhang Xiaohu thought for a moment and said, "Your whereabouts have been unknown for the past 10 days. I have always wanted to tell you. Du Feng and Ding Chao. I feel a little uneasy." The two of them? What are you uneasy about? That's the famous Misty twin beauties. Their martial arts are getting better and better. They are catching up with Master and Martial Uncle Shui. They can be considered as the best among our generation of disciples. But don't forget, their martial arts were obtained from Shixin Peak. You are hiding your head and showing your tail. Who knows who you are? I am afraid that they will think that the incense cult's experts helped them and, well, second brother, you are suspicious of your neighbor. Why are you suspecting these things for no reason? Zhang Xiaohua snorted. Zhang Xiaohu shook his head. You don't understand, Xiaohua. I am now the leader of the Misty School. Of course, I have to think about many things. Du Feng and Ding Chao are the backbone of my Misty School. I must ensure their loyalty. Okay. Zhang Xiaohua said impatiently, when I have time tonight, I will go there. Well, you better say that you are a senior of the Misty School. You wanted to save these disciples from the incense cult, but there were too many people and you couldn't help. So you cultivated the two of them to be the backup force of the Misty School. What do you think? As you wish, second brother. Zhang Xiaohua agreed. But then she rolled her eyes and took out a jade bottle. She smiled and said, "Why is it so troublesome? You just need to test the power of this soul-scaring pill and make them obey you wholeheartedly." Soul-scaring pill? Zhang Xiaohu was stunned and said, "What kind of pill is this? How can I make the two of them work for me?" Zhang Xiaohua smiled and explained the effects of the soul-scaring pill. Zhang Xiaohu shook his head like a rattledrum and said, "That won't do. Du Feng and Ding Chao are disciples of my Misty School. They will be of great use in the future. If they become puppets, I will cry." Then, Zhang Xiaohu came to his senses and snatched the jade bottle. He smiled and said, "Didn't you say that you would help me deal with Mingqing and Gao Kunheng, these disciples of the incense cult? There has been no movement for a while. It turns out that you have hidden your trump card here." But when he opened the jade bottle, there were only a dozen pills inside. Zhang Xiaohu couldn't help but ask, "If you only control Mingqing and Gao Kunheng, I'm afraid that they still have Nun Jingyi's eyes and ears. It won't be easy to deal with them." Zhang Xiaohua said, "Second brother, do you think that this soul-scaring pill is an ordinary thing? It requires extremely precious herbs to refine. This is also my first time refining it. I don't know how effective it is. If I fail to refine it, won't it be a waste of herbs? Oh, this is just a test. Zhang Xiaohu understood. That's right. Today, I am looking for second brother for this matter. Find a dozen disciples of the incense cult, and let me see the effect of this pill. This? Zhang Xiaohu nodded. The disciples of the incense cult don't listen to me now. They can only go through Ming Qing and Gao Kunheng. Aren't there many disciples of the Righteous Alliance in the dungeon and back of the mountain? These disciples are still waiting for reinforcements from the Righteous Alliance. They won't surrender no matter what. I can't bear to kill them. I am worried. This is good. There are many disciples of the Righteous Alliance. If this soul-scaring pill is effective, second brother's strength will increase greatly. Hearing this, Zhang Xiaohu became even more anxious. He pulled Zhang Xiaohua and was about to leave. Zhang Xiaohua laughed. Second brother, you are the leader of the Misty School. You have to pay attention to your demeanor. Bullshit demeanor, Zhang Xiaohu said angrily. This concerns the fate of my Misty School. How can I be calm? Besides, what demeanor do I have to talk to you about? Zhang Xiaohua shook her head. I don't have anything in common with you. After saying this, she twisted her body and disappeared into the ground. Her voice was left behind. Second brother, you go ahead. I will follow you from behind. Zhang Xiaohu looked at her with envy. The true qi in his body flowed slightly. He sighed. The flow of true qi in this blade is gradually becoming more and more familiar. However, the mental cultivation of the Kuan Pong transformation is still not at the entry level. I don't know when I will be able to move as freely as Xiaohua. Zhang Xiaohu left the secret room and called for a disciple to bring him to the back of the Misty Peak. The back of the Misty Peak was a cliff. It was a dead end. Hence, a few simple and crude wooden huts were built here to guard the captured disciples of the Righteous Alliance. Seeing the arrival of the sect leader, the disciple guarding the huts did not dare to be negligent. He hurried over to greet him. Zhang Xiaohu smiled and helped the disciple up. He explained the importance of guarding the huts and expressed his gratitude for their hard work. Then he said, I need a quiet wooden hut. I have some questions to ask the disciples of the Righteous Alliance. The disciple was encouraged by Zhang Xiaohu. He was excited and spoke incoherently. He pointed to the place where he was resting and said, Sect leader Zhang, this is where I rest. Do you think it's okay? I will bring a disciple of the Righteous Alliance over. I will personally guard it for you. Zhang Xiaohu smiled and patted him on the shoulder. Many thanks. I don't dare to trouble sect leader. The disciple ran off. Not long after, he brought a young disciple with a dispirited look. The young disciple obviously recognized Zhang Xiaohu. He was slightly surprised and said in a hoarse voice, I was wondering who it was. So it's the Misty School's Hall Master? May I know why you are looking for me? The disciple of the Misty School kicked the disciple's leg and scolded, This is our Misty School's sect leader, not some hall master. Zhang Xiaohu was stunned. He did not blame the Misty School disciple and only asked, You recognize me? The disciple of the Righteous Alliance had his pressure points sealed. He rubbed his leg and nodded with a bitter smile. When the immortal appeared, I was also at Misty Peak. I understand. Zhang Xiaohu looked at him and said, I am looking for you today because I have some questions. The disciple's face changed slightly and said coldly, For the Misty School's sect leader to personally come and ask, it must be something important. I am just a small character in the Righteous Alliance. I have nothing to tell sect leader. Bang! The disciple of the Righteous Alliance kicked the disciple's butt again. The disciple of the Righteous Alliance staggered and almost fell down. Sect leader Zhang is asking you because you have a good opportunity. Yet you are trying to shirk away. You are really courting death. The disciple of the Righteous Alliance scolded and then asked in a fawning manner, Sect leader, do you want this disciple to find another disciple? Zhang Xiaohu smiled and said, You still need to find another disciple. Go and find a few more. I will ask this disciple. Yes. The disciple of the Righteous Alliance replied clearly and loudly. After the disciple of the Righteous Alliance left, Zhang Xiaohu smiled and said, Come in and talk. The disciple of the Righteous Alliance coldly snorted and entered the woodshed. Before the disciple of the Righteous Alliance could see clearly what was inside the woodshed, his vision turned black and he fell to the ground. Behind him, Zhang Xiaohua retracted her finger that sealed his pressure points. Hee, you run really fast. Zhang Xiaohu laughed and then stood to the side. Zhang Xiaohua did not reply. She squatted down and pinched open the disciple's tightly shut mouth and placed a soul-intimidating pill in his mouth. Please cast a monthly vote. Please cast a recommendation vote. Please collect. Please tip. Thank you. -4. Chapter 1104. Zhang Xiaohu watched from the side as his heart leapt to his throat. If Zhang Xiaohua's soul-frightening pill was effective, then the problem that he had been having a headache over would be solved immediately. He could even use this soul-frightening pill as a milestone in the development of Misty School. With just this pill, Misty School would be able to escape the fate of being a puppet of Chuanxiang cult and become their own master. However, seeing that the soul-frightening pill had already been consumed by the Righteous Alliance disciple, he did not see any reaction from the disciple. After a moment, Zhang Xiaohu could not help but ask in a low voice, "Xiaohua, is there any effect?" Zhang Xiaohua ignored him and stood up. The joints in his body creaked, and his body shrank a little. Then, he turned around and said, "What's the rush?" Zhang Xiaohu saw Zhang Xiaohua turn around and saw her face that was exactly the same as his. He was shocked and almost jumped up. Just as he was about to laugh and scold her, he saw Zhang Xiaohua stretch out her hand and touch the Righteous Alliance disciple's body. Then she whispered something into the Righteous Alliance disciple's ear. That disciple suddenly opened his eyes. His gaze was sluggish at first, then he looked straight ahead. After a while, his eyes lit up and after a few turns, he saw Zhang Xiaohua's face. He seemed to have some questions. Zhang Xiaohua said in a low voice, "My name is Zhang Xiaohu. I am the leader of Misty School. In the future, you must listen to me and be a good Misty School disciple." "Yes." The disciple's voice was still hoarse, but his tone was not as sharp as before. "What is your name?" "This one is called Wang Luan." "Which sect are you from?" Wang Luan seemed to be struggling, but very quickly his expression changed and said, "This one was originally a Righteous Alliance disciple. Now I should be a Misty School disciple." "Okay, close your eyes." Wang Luan closed his eyes. Zhang Xiaohua reached out and sealed his acupoints. She looked back at Zhang Xiaohu and said, "How is it? How's the effect of my soul-scaring pill?" "Turn yourself back first." Zhang Xiaohu was not used to speaking in front of him. Zhang Xiaohua smiled and said, "Don't be afraid, second brother. When you get married, I'll be your best man." As she spoke, the joints on her body creaked, and as Zhang Xiaohua appeared in front of Zhang Xiaohu. "Aren't you afraid that you won't be able to change back to yourself if you keep changing back?" Zhang Xiaohu asked worriedly. "It's okay. As long as I remove the genuine qi of the shape-shifting skill, I will return to my original appearance." Zhang Xiaohua smiled and unsealed Wang Luan's acupoints. This time, Wang Luan looked past Zhang Xiaohua and looked directly at Zhang Xiaohu. Zhang Xiaohu walked in front of Wang Luan and looked him up and down. He did not find anything wrong with him. Wang Luan's eyes were clear, and his expression was also clear. There was no difference from before. "Wang Luan," Zhang Xiaohu said, "your subordinate is here. Faction leader Zhang, please instruct me." Wang Luan said respectfully, "Okay, it's nothing. Tell me about the Righteous Alliance's situation." Yes, Wang Luan obediently told him about the Righteous Alliance. However, as Wang Luan said, he was just an ordinary disciple. How could he know so much? Of course, Zhang Xiaohu did not really want to get anything out of him. He only listened briefly before waving his hand and saying, "Very good. Wang Luan, you may go back. After a few days, you and the other disciples of the Righteous Alliance will transfer to my Misty School. Together with me, we will build the Misty School into a famous sect in the pugilistic world." "Yes, I will obey faction leader's orders." Wang Luan saluted and walked out. Outside the woodshed, the disciple of the Misty School was standing guard. Beside him were a few other disciples of the Righteous Alliance whose acupoints were also sealed. Seeing Wang Luan come out, the disciple hurried forward and came to the door. He smiled and said, Faction leader Zhang, did this disciple tell you the truth? If you are not satisfied, I will go back and punish him. Zhang Xiaohu looked at Zhang Xiaohua and turned to the door. He said in a low voice, I am very happy that you are diligent in your duty. However, you don't have to be too harsh on the disciples of the Righteous Alliance. You must remember that the disciples of my Misty School were also prisoners of others not long ago. That feeling, I believe you still remember it? The disciple was stunned and immediately looked embarrassed. After a while, he bowed and said, Faction leader Zhang is very kind and I admire you. I will pay more attention in the future. Then, he pointed to the side and said, These are some disciples with some positions in the Righteous Alliance. I believe they know more. I wonder if faction leader Zhang can use them. Zhang Xiaohu already knew that Zhang Xiaohua was only looking for people to test the effect of the soul-frightening pill. She didn't care about anyone, so he nodded and said, Let them in. The disciple of the Misty School let them into the woodshed, and he became a guard at the door again. Inside the woodshed, just like before, Zhang Xiaohua still let these people take the soul-frightening pill and let Zhang Xiaohu ask them some questions before letting them out one by one. After leaving the back mountain of the ethereal peak, Zhang Xiaohu didn't return to the meeting hall. Instead, he went to the Huanxi villa. Zhang Xiaohua also showed up and the two of them talked as they walked. Second brother, what do you think of the effect? Zhang Xiaohua said with a smile. Haha, Zhang Xiaohua's work is always of the best quality. Zhang Xiaohu nodded and said, This is indeed a magical power of the immortal Tao. Wang Luan and the others, from the surface, there is no trace at all. No one would have thought that the disciples of the Righteous Alliance suddenly became disciples of our Misty School. He, they are faction leader Zhang's disciples, not some Misty School's disciples. Zhang Xiaohua said with a smile. Of course, that's the scary part. Zhang Xiaohu replied, If I use enough soul-frightening pills, I'm afraid the whole Jianghu will be mine. Wishful thinking. Zhang Xiaohua said with disdain, Everything has its vanquisher. This soul-frightening pill also has an antidote, but it's not something that can be done once and for all. Moreover, the herbs used to make the soul-frightening pill are extremely precious. If not for helping you, I wouldn't be willing to use them. I only took care of the disciples of the Righteous Alliance and the incense cult in the Misty School. I don't have any more elixirs. Seeing Zhang Xiaohu's strange expression, Zhang Xiaohua said, Of course, the herbs used to make the antidote are even more precious. I think in the Jianghu now, there may not be anyone who can refine it. Second brother, you will be safe for the next few decades. Zhang Xiaohu shook his head and said, That's not what I'm thinking. Although what I said just now was just a casual remark, but, thinking about it, it's also a little scary. If this soul-frightening pill is taken by someone with evil intentions, then, won't it set off a bloody storm in the Jianghu? And, if it's discovered, won't it become the public enemy of the Jianghu? Zhang Xiaohua was stunned, then laughed and said, Second brother, I just saw the effects of this soul-frightening pill and wanted to tell you about it. I didn't expect you to lecture me first. Zhang Xiaohu saw his brother's reaction and nodded. What do you want to say? Zhang Xiaohua didn't hide and said bluntly, This soul-frightening pill is an item of the immortal path. It's originally a low-end trick. To be honest, no immortal path expert would waste it just to control the minds of others. There are many ways to deal with ordinary people in the immortal path, but in order to help second brother, I spent so much capital. I will never refine this kind of elixir in the future. Furthermore, using drugs to control one's mind isn't just limited to the immortal Tao. Even in the martial Tao, it's the worst. Since I'm in charge of ethereal sect, it's only natural for me to win people over through virtue. I'll pass down the legacy of Sect Master O's magnanimity. If I were to rely on such insignificant skills, how could ethereal sect become something great? Zhang Xiaohu replied proudly. Zhang Xiaohua applauded and said, Second brother's words are exactly what I want. If it weren't for the dangerous situation now, and the disciples of the incense cult are eyeing second brother covetously, I really don't want to be so ruthless. Yes, the immortal path is long and I've just seen it. I'm still far from reaching the next level. I have no choice but to use extreme measures. Second brother, you don't have to be so concerned. This soul-frightening pill isn't too sinister. Apart from making people submissive, it's no different from ordinary people in other aspects. As the two of them spoke, the small courtyard of Huanxi Manor came into view. But at that moment, the sound of galloping horses came from behind. Zhang Xiaohu frowned slightly. When he turned back, he saw an ethereal sect disciple galloping over. When he saw Zhang Xiaohu, he immediately dismounted and bowed. Reporting to Sect Master Zhang, elder who has sent a disciple over. Then, he looked at Zhang Xiaohua and said nothing. Zhang Xiaohu was overjoyed at first, but then he said with some displeasure, "This is my younger brother. There's no harm in speaking." "Yes, Master Zhang," the disciple said respectfully, elder who has sent a messenger here. His name is Chu Yunfei, a former disciple of Divine Engineering Hall. He wants to talk to Master Zhang about their return. Ha ha ha. Zhang Xiaohu laughed and looked at Zhang Xiaohua. That's great. We've been waiting for them for a long time. We've also sent out disciples to look for them. Now, we finally have a chance to meet them again. If Elder Hu returns, our Misty School will be complete. Zhang Xiaohu waved his hand and said, "You go out first. Tell Chu Yunfei that I'll go right away." After the disciple left, Zhang Xiaohua's face was expressionless as he said, "It really is that Chu Yunfei. I presume that second brother still remembers what I told you. This Chu Yunfei is the disciple I met outside Soning Town. After so many years, he hasn't changed much. Yes, as long as he's Elder Hu's man. It's just that Elder Hu came a little early. If he had come a little later, maybe things would have been a lot easier." Zhang Xiaohua said with a smile, "Second brother, don't worry. I'll go and start refining now. Just tell me the number of disciples from Fragrance Cult and Righteous Alliance. I won't let you down." "Well, thank you for your hard work, Xiaohua." Zhang Xiaohu patted Zhang Xiaohua's shoulder and said. Then, he frowned slightly. "Oh right, there's been no news from Yao Mountain these days. There's been no sign of anything. It's fine. I don't necessarily have to open Beidou School in Yao Mountain. Yao Mountain is in the teeth of the storm now. It'll be troublesome to take it." Then, he looked into the distance and said, "Now that Elder Hu has returned, I'm afraid second brother will have to deal with him for a while. Let's deal with second brother first." The two parted ways. Zhang Xiaohua returned to the small courtyard and Zhang Xiaohu returned to Misty Mountain Villa. Please cast a monthly vote. Please cast a recommendation vote. Please collect. Please tip. Thank you. -4. Chapter 1105. In the meeting hall, an elegant man in his 30s, dressed in brocade robes, stood with his hands behind his back. To his left sat Ming Qing and Gao Kunheng, the two deputy sect masters of Ethereal Sect. The man was unarmed and had an arrogant look on his face. He didn't even look at Ming Qing and Gao Kunheng. His gaze was fixed on the meeting hall surroundings. He looked greedily at every inch of it, as if he had missed it for a long time. Seeing that the atmosphere in the meeting hall was a bit cold, Gao Kunheng coughed and said, "You call yourself Chu Yunfei from Misty School. Why are you so quiet in the meeting hall? Could it be that you're mocking my Misty School?" "You're from Misty School?" Chu Yunfei retracted his gaze and looked at Ming Qing and Gao Kunheng with contempt. He couldn't help but sneer. "My Misty School has always been the Misty School of my Misty School's disciples. When did it become the Misty School of the Incense Cult's disciples? Of course, I came to Misty School to talk to the leader of Misty School. You're not the leader of Misty School, so why should I talk to you?" Gao Kunheng clearly didn't expect that this Misty School disciple named Chu Yunfei wouldn't give him any face. He had just opened his mouth to ask a question when he was blocked by a bunch of Misty School. His face reddened, and he clenched his fist. He was about to get angry, but Ming Qing blocked him with his hand and smiled. "Misty School is Misty School. It doesn't matter who it used to be or who it will be in the future. It's ours now. Since Elder Hu wants to return to Misty School, then he must face this reality. Otherwise, he might not be able to adapt to this Misty School." Then, he stood up and walked in front of Chu Yunfei. He said word by word, "There is one more thing that I would like to correct. We are all disciples of the Ethereal Sect, not the Incense Cult. Everyone in Jianghu knows this. Brother Chu, you must be clear about this." Seeing this, Gao Kunheng also stood up and said with a smile, Deputy Sect Leader Ming taught you one thing, and I will also teach you one thing. That is, Misty Heights and Misty Peak were snatched back by us, the Misty School's disciples. If not for us, the Misty School's disciples, Misty Peak would still be in the hands of the Righteous Alliance. Chu Yunfei's face was a bit hot. When he was about to explain himself, he heard someone laughing outside. Since you are all disciples of our Misty School, you should know what you are good at and what you are good at. It is very rare for Brother Chu to be able to listen to the teachings of two vice leaders. The person who entered was none other than Zhang Xiaohu. Seeing that Zhang Xiaohu was giving him a way out, Chu Yunfei knew that he had to step down. He stepped forward and bowed slightly, saying, Greetings, Sect Leader Zhang. Zhang Xiaohu looked at Chu Yunfei and did not blame him. He pointed at Yi and said with a smile, Brother Chu, you are a guest from afar. You should sit down first. Then he faced Ming Qing and Gao Kunheng and said, Since the two vice leaders have taught Brother Chu one thing, then I will also teach the two vice leaders one thing. That is, Misty School was taken down by our Misty School's disciples, not by you or our Misty School's disciples. As for the specific credit, I think we should thank the immortal expert who suddenly made a move. If it wasn't for him, old man, whether our Misty School's disciples could have taken down Ethereal Peak, or whether you and I would be sitting in this meeting hall is still uncertain. Ming Qing and Gao Kunheng heard this and couldn't help but be silent. Zhang Xiaohu's words were very correct. Although the Fragrance Cult's disciples killed at the front, the Misty School's disciples didn't show any weakness. If Zhang Xiaohua hadn't reached out and eliminated Ban Fuguwei and the four old consecrators, Ethereal Peak really wouldn't have been taken down. Others might not know, but how could Zhang Xiaohu not know? How could Ming Qing and Gao Kunheng not know? All right, vice leaders, please sit down. Brother Chu has brought news of our Misty School's elder Hu. You may not care, but I want to hear it. Ming Qing looked at Gao Kunheng and walked to his seat and sat down. Then, Zhang Xiaohu waved his hand and ordered loudly, Disciples on duty, go and invite Elder Li, Elder Lu and Elder One and the others here. Gao Kunheng frowned and said, Grand Leader Zhang, the meeting hall is the place where we discuss important matters. When you welcomed Li Jian and the others back then, we didn't say anything. But now, I'm afraid it's not appropriate. Ming Qing also added, Yes, Grand Leader Zhang. I've already said that our Misty School doesn't have any elders now. Elder Li, Elder Lu, Elder One, and the others, it doesn't seem appropriate for Grand Leader Zhang to call them that. Chu Yunfei seemed to have expected this situation. He sat quietly in his chair and narrowed his eyes, watching. Haha, Zhang Xiaohu had long regarded them as the same as Wang Luan. He wouldn't lower himself to their level. He smiled and said, I'm used to calling them that. I just said it casually. Please don't take offense. As he said that, he looked at Chu Yunfei and said, Brother Chu came from afar and hasn't seen the elders in the sect for a long time. It's good for him to meet them. Besides, aren't the two vice leaders also in the meeting hall? You can also see the touching scene when our Misty School's disciples meet. Hearing Zhang Xiaohu's shameless explanation, Ming Qing and Ming Qing were speechless. However, they thought that if they stayed away, these people might do something they didn't know. It was better to see them face to face. Not long after, Li Jian and the others arrived. Chu Yunfei didn't have much of an impression of Zhang Xiaohu, so it was inevitable that he would be disrespectful when meeting him. However, Li Jian, Lu Qingyang, Wan Hai, and the others were all famous people from the Misty School. They were all direct disciples of 2 generations. Chu Yunfei didn't dare to slight them. When he saw Li Jian's familiar face appear at the entrance of the meeting hall, his eyes reddened. He immediately got up and ran over. He bowed and said, Disciple Chu Yunfei from the Divine Engineering Hall greets Grand Master Li. That brat, you only saw your Grand Master Li. You didn't see Grandpa Lu? Chu Yunfei raised his head. Tears were already dripping down his face. Lu Qingyang, who had always been braver than others, was sitting on a cart and being pushed in. Greetings, Grand Master Lu. Are you well? Ha ha ha. Lu Qingyang laughed and said, Very well, very well. I just don't know how Boss Hu is now. Grandmaster Hu was seriously injured back then. Although he has been recuperating in recent years, the effect isn't very good. Although he is much stronger than Grandmaster Liu, he has too many things to worry about. After exhausting himself, his health is worrying. Seeing Li Jian and the others, Chu Yunfei didn't hide anything. Hearing that Hu Yunyi's health was worrying, Lu Qingyang also asked anxiously, "Boss Hui, he's fine, right?" At this time, when Wen Hai, Xueqing, Lu Yuiming, Aunt Qin, Du Feng, and Ding Chao also arrived. Seeing so many old faces all at once, Chu Yunfei hurriedly bowed. He also felt a trace of warmth from the Misty School. "Everyone is still here. Sit down." Zhang Xiaohu stood behind them and said, "Brother Chu came today with Elder Hu's order. Let's talk slowly." "Yes, we will listen to Grand Faction Leader Zhang," Li Jian replied. Seeing Li Jian like this, Chu Yunfei frowned slightly. Lu Qingyang also smiled and said, "Of course, you are the Grand Faction Leader here. Of course, we will listen to you." Chu Yunfei's expression was even more strange. When everyone took their seats, the meeting hall was filled with old people from the Misty School. Only Ming Qing and Gao Kunheng were from the incense cult. They immediately felt that they were alone and weak. Ming Qing stood up and said, "Grand Faction Leader Zhang, we are the deputy faction leaders of the Misty School. It is proper for us to discuss matters in this meeting hall. We have no objections if you want to let Hero Li Jian and the others come up to meet us. However, if you want to talk about some internal matters, I suggest that we dismiss all irrelevant people." "That brat you." Lu Qingyang was furious. He slapped the armrest of the chair and was about to jump up. Li Jian quickly held him down and scolded, "Old Fifth Lu, this is the meeting hall. You have no right to behave atrociously here." Only then did Lu Qingyang realize that he had almost exposed himself. He unconsciously sat down resentfully and glared at Ming Qing fiercely. Zhang Xiaohu smiled and said, "Deputy Faction Leader Ming, Chu Yunfei came from afar to talk about the old days and also to discuss some matters. What do you think I should do? To be honest, if Elderly and the others were not in the ethereal heights, would Chu Yunfei come here? Can the disciples of my ethereal sect who are wandering outside return to my ethereal manor? Isn't this all because of Elder Li's face? If Deputy Faction Leader Ming suggests that I expel Elder Li and the others from the meeting hall, then I can tell you without hesitation that it is impossible. Vice Leader Ming, if you insist on your opinion, then please leave. After all, the people Chu Yunfei wants to meet are not you." As soon as Zhang Xiaohu's words came out, everyone in the hall was shocked. Li Jian and the others all knew that ever since they came to the ethereal heights, Zhang Xiaohu had always been patient. He was neither servile nor overbearing in front of Ming Qing and Gao Kunheng and often left them face. If it was not because he had no choice, he would never say anything ruthless. Now that he suddenly laughed and turned hostile, even Li Jian and the others were caught off guard, let alone Ming Qing and Gao Kunheng. "Faction Leader Zhang, what are you talking about?" Gao Kunheng stood up and said gloomily, "Could it be that Faction Leader Zhang got the Misty School? I wonder how you got the Misty School?" Li Jian also stood up and said, "Faction Leader Zhang, it is better to separate public and private matters. We have already met Chu Yunfei. You can talk about the faction affairs first. When you are done, we can talk about the past. Faction Leader Zhang, don't delay the Misty School's important matter because of your emotions." When Wen Hai and the others also stood up and prepared to leave, Zhang Xiao quickly stood up and said, "Master, Elder Lu, please sit down for the time being. I have not reached the point where I can't separate public and private matters." Li Jian frowned slightly. He did not know what Zhang Xiaohu was planning to do. Today, he actually wanted to fall out with the fragrance cult. Although they had recovered their martial arts, thousands of disciples of the fragrance cult were in the ethereal heights. If they were not careful, wouldn't there be an internal conflict? However, he respectfully called Zhang Xiaohu Faction Leader Zhang. He could not ignore Zhang Xiaohu's words. He could only look at Wen Hai's confused face and sit down. "What a good faction leader, Zhang." Lu Qingyang praised. "I like it. Please vote monthly, recommend, bookmark, and tip. Thank you." -4. Chapter 1106. After everyone was seated, Zhang Xiaohu looked at Ming Qing and Gao Kunheng, who were still standing with uncertain expressions. He sneered and said, I'm the leader of Misty School. Do you two not want to follow my orders? Of course we have to follow the orders of the leader of Misty School. However, we have to follow the orders of people who know how to repay kindness. I don't care about the orders of people who are ungrateful and don't know how to think about their origins. Gao Kunheng sneered as well. Ha ha ha. Zhang Xiaohu looked up to the sky and laughed. If we follow the orders of the fragrant cult, then we know how to repay kindness. If we don't follow the orders of the fragrant cult, then wouldn't we be ungrateful? Ming Qing nodded. Since Leader Zhang has said so, it seems that you know the whole story. Since Leader Zhang knows how you got your position, then you should know what to do to get your position in jail. If you act on impulse, then you'll only be working for others. Gao Kunheng squinted his eyes and said, Moreover, wasn't it the leader of the fragrant cult who bestowed upon you from Serene Peak to Misty Peak? If it weren't for the leader's benevolence, you would still be imprisoned in Serene Peak. Ha ha ha. Zhang Xiaohu laughed and clapped his hands. What a gift, what a benevolence. Although your fragrant cult wasn't the main cause of the destruction of my Misty School, you were still an accomplice. Your disciples also have the blood of my Misty School disciples on their hands. Your disciples of the fragrant cult crippled countless of my Misty School disciples' martial arts and brought them back to the fragrant cult. Nominally, you were protecting the face of Leader O's wife, but in reality, Hu and Jianghu didn't know what Nun Jingyi was thinking. Moreover, instead of saying that Jingyi Nun was helping me rebuild my Misty School, it would be more accurate to say that she was building a branch for Shangxiang cult. Yes, even if Nun Jingyi took in my Misty School's disciples, it can be considered as keeping the descendants of my Misty School and not being completely annihilated by the Righteous Alliance. Moreover, she sent you to assist my Misty School in taking back the ethereal peak. She can only make up for her mistakes, and even with my Misty School. Now, you even want to meddle in the affairs of my Misty School and turn my Misty School into your puppet. As the leader of the Misty School, how can I tolerate this? I am grateful that Nun Jingyi promoted me to the leader of the Misty School, but I was originally a direct disciple of the Misty School. Even without Nun Jingyi's support, I can still be the leader. The more Zhang Xiaohu spoke, the more agitated he became. On the other hand, Li Jin and the others were more and more shocked. This was definitely not the time to fall out with the fragrant cult. They didn't know why Zhang Xiaohu was so impulsive. On the other hand, Ming Qing and Gao Kunheng were first shocked, then they sneered at the back of the mountain. In the end, there was a trace of a smile on their lips. When Zhang Xiaohu finished speaking, they clapped their hands and said, Zhang Xiaohu, I didn't expect you to be such a hot-blooded man. These words, I think everyone here wants to say it, but you, the leader who is valued by our leader, actually dared to say it. I'm afraid that even our leader wouldn't have guessed it. However, this is also good. You, as the Grand Faction Master, are now highly respected in the ethereal sect. We and that faintly discernible person can't keep you in check. Let's ask the hierarch to decide whether we should replace you with someone else or punish you. Haha, I already said that the Misty School is the Misty School's Misty School, not the Misty School of the Fragrant Cult. The leader of the Misty School is decided by the disciples of the Misty School. How can Nun Jingyi be the leader of the disciples of the Misty School? Zhang Xiaohu said proudly. Then he looked at Li Jin and the others and laughed. You asked them, can I still be the leader of the Misty School? Ha ha ha. Lu Qingyang clapped his hands and said, of course, you're the leader of the Misty School. If anyone disagrees, I'll be the first to settle the score with him. Yes, Zhang Xiaohu is the leader of the Misty School recognized by the disciples of the Misty School. He's definitely not someone the leader of the Fragrant Cult can casually decide. Haha, what a bunch of ignorant people. Just because you got some benefits, you don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Do you think you can protect the Misty Peak with Hu Yuni and the other disciples of the Misty School? Do you think you can defy our leader's will? Ming Qing sneered and said to Gao Kunheng, let's go, Deputy Leader Ji. Let's go back and discuss who will be the leader of the Misty School after Zhang Xiaohu is dismissed by our leader. Gao Kunheng wanted to continue, but he didn't dare to stay in the meeting hall alone. Just as he was about to leave with Ming Qing, he heard Li Jin's low voice, do you two still want to leave? Why? The famous elderly, do you still want to keep us here? Ming Qing turned around and said disdainfully, If it were a few years ago, perhaps I would still feel apprehensive. But now, I only need a finger to crush you to death. I spared your lives only because I didn't know Lord Cult Leader's plan and didn't dare to act rashly. Do you think I'm afraid of you? Elderly, sit down, Zhang Xiaohu said in a low voice.
But,
Li Jian didn't understand, but he still sat down. Ming Qing looked at Zhang Xiaohu and said with a smile, Zhang Xiaohu, it's too late to wake up now. You can be the leader for a few more days. He laughed and walked out of the meeting hall. Ding Chao, Du Feng, pass down my order. Reinforce the defense outside the Misty Mountain Villa. No one is allowed to leave the Misty Mountain Villa, and no news is allowed to spread from here. When Ming Qing and Gao Kunheng walked out of the meeting hall, Zhang Xiaohu immediately ordered them. Yes, your subordinates will personally take the shift. Du Feng and Ding Chao looked at Zhang Xiaohu with admiration as they replied in a clean and efficient manner. Martial Ancestor Li, Martial Ancestor Lu, Master. You can talk to Brother Chu first. I'll be right back. Zhang Xiaohu didn't dare to delay and stood up. Leader, this is... Chu Yunfei was surprised by Zhang Xiaohu's courage and asked curiously. Brother Chu, I've embarrassed myself in front of you. My Misty School is still under the control of the disciples of the Fragrance Cult. I'm the leader in name only. Perhaps it's time to deal with it. Sit down and talk to your martial uncles and martial ancestors. Tell them about Martial Ancestor Hu's situation. I'm sure Martial Ancestor Li has been wanting to ask about it for a long time. As Zhang Xiaohu spoke, he hurriedly walked out of the meeting hall. However, in the time it took to eat a meal, so many changes had happened in the meeting hall. Even though Li Jian had experienced a lot of things, he couldn't understand what Zhang Xiaohu was thinking. He could only think about how to deal with it tonight. Therefore, he didn't pay much attention to Chu Yunfei's words. After Zhang Xiaohu left the meeting hall, he immediately rode a horse and rushed to Huanxi Mountain Villa. He was afraid that if he was late, Zhang Xiaohua would disappear. Fortunately, as soon as he entered the small courtyard, he heard the laughter in the hall. Wasn't Zhang Xiaohua's voice among them? Seeing Zhang Xiaohu rushing over, Zhang Xiaohua asked curiously, Didn't your Misty School have a happy occasion? How come it's over so quickly? Zhang Xiaohu walked to Zhang Xiaohua in a few steps, grabbed her and whispered, Come with me quickly. I have something important to do. Guosufei and the others saw Zhang Xiaohu rushing in and directly looking for Zhang Xiaohua without greeting them. They knew that Zhang Xiaohu was anxious and hurriedly said, Xiaohua, go quickly. Don't make things difficult for your second brother. Zhang Xiaohua nodded and followed Zhang Xiaohu to her house. Zhang Xiaohu immediately asked, Do you still have any leftover soul-absorbing pills? Yes, I still have some left. Didn't I just test a few in the morning? Zhang Xiaohua nodded. That's good. Zhang Xiaohu said with a happy face, Go now and let Ming Qing and Gao Kunheng take the soul-absorbing pills like the disciples of the Righteous Alliance in the morning. What's wrong? Second brother. Isn't it? Zhang Xiaohua still wanted to ask, but Zhang Xiaohu pushed her and said, There are so many other people first. If you don't want Abishjingi to take your second brother's life, quickly settle these two people. All right. Seeing that Ming Qing and Gao Kunheng were already threatening Zhang Xiaohu's life, Zhang Xiaohua didn't ask any more questions and turned to leave. After Zhang Xiaohua left, Zhang Xiaohu put his hands behind his back and paced back and forth in the house. After pacing back and forth a few times, he still couldn't calm down. Thus, he made up his mind and closed his eyes to calm down. Then, he started practicing the Arhat Fist technique in the house. Just like in the Lotus Flower Escort Agency's house, he practiced every move meticulously. Strangely enough, when he was halfway through practicing the 6 Harmonies Fist technique, Zhang Xiaohu's anxious mood slowly calmed down, and he put all his energy into practicing the 6 Harmonies Fist technique. After practicing for an unknown period of time, a voice sounded from behind him, Hee, second brother's 6 Harmonies Fist technique has a deep understanding of the Samadhi. You have improved quite a bit compared to when you were at the Lotus Flower Escort Agency. Yes, the fist doesn't leave the hand, and the song doesn't leave the mouth. Only with more practice can there be results. Zhang Xiaohu replied. After finishing the last few moves, he asked, How was it? Did you manage to settle the matter? Ha ha ha, Zhang Xiaohua said softly. Of course it was easy. Seeing Zhang Xiaohu's relieved expression, he said, "When I saw the two of them, they were discussing how to report this matter to Abbess Jingyi. He, second brother, I didn't expect you to have such guts. If I didn't have the soul-absorbing pill, I'm afraid this matter would have been reported to Abbess Jingyi." Zhang Xiaohu said self-deprecatingly, "How would I have the guts? It's just that after seeing the effects of the soul-absorbing pill in your hands, I was emboldened. These two people would have to be dealt with sooner or later, so I might as well do it earlier." Second brother is right. Since Elder who sent people here, they might be back soon. Having a disciple of the incense cult in the Misty School is like having a fishbone stuck in one's throat. No one would be comfortable with it. However, with the changes in Yaoshan, maybe Abbess Jingyi will come as well. I just don't know if the soul-absorbing pill can fool Abbess Jingyi's eyes. It's okay, Xiaohua. If Abbess Jingyi sees any flaws, I will bear all the responsibility. I definitely won't implicate you. Please vote monthly, recommend, bookmark, and tip. Thank you. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote monthly and recommend at Chidian. Com. -4. Chapter 1107. Hearing Zhang Xiaohu's words, Zhang Xiaohua's heart warmed. He smiled proudly and said, "Second brother, you've underestimated your brother. You've just stepped onto the path of immortality, but I've been cultivating for a long time." Zhang Xiaohu rolled his eyes at him and said, "Even if you're stronger than me, you've only been cultivating for a few years. Nun Jingyi has been immersed in the path of immortality for decades. How can you be her opponent?" Then he sighed and said, "Before entering the path of immortality, I couldn't see the difference between you and me. But when I saw the shadow of the path of immortality, you ran away from me long ago. You've only been cultivating for a few years, but you already make me feel irresistible. Do I still need to tell you how powerful Nun Jingyi is?" Zhang Xiaohua suddenly understood. He thought for a while and said with a smile, "The path of immortality. Oh, you can't just talk about cultivation. Everything in this world has to be done step by step. Only then can you reap the rewards. As the saying goes, a drop of sweat is a reward. However, if it's like this, people can only rely on hard work. The so-called intelligence and wisdom can't count. There are many things that require hard work, but at the same time, skill, comprehension, and opportunity are also important. Needless to say about skill and comprehension, second brother also understood this when he was practicing martial arts. Just the 6 complementary fists alone will make a difference between others and you. And in the path of immortality, what's most important is fate. For example, second brother, you only needed to kowtow 9 times to enter the path of immortality. But what about me? That's a lot of hard work. Can't you tell others about the hardships involved? Even if it was very hard for me, now that I think about it, there were many opportunities and coincidences. If it weren't for that, I would still be a servant in Huanxi Manor. Of course I don't know about the inheritance of the incense cult, but looking at the 3rd floor of your Misty School's inheritance pavilion, you should know how difficult it is to step onto the path of immortality. Stepping onto the path of immortality is such a difficult thing for ordinary people. But for you, you passed it in a flash. Then what about the path of immortality? Aren't there many opportunities in it? Zhang Xiaohu was enlightened and nodded slightly. I kind of understand now. You mean that you've had a lot of opportunities. Although you've only been cultivating for a few years, your cultivation is no weaker than Abbess Jingyi's? Zhang Xiaohua said with a smile. Fighting in the immortal Tao is different from fighting in the martial Tao. Cultivation is one aspect, magic tools are another, and fighting strategy is a big help. That's why Abbess Jingyi and I don't fight, so I can't say who's stronger and who's weaker. But one thing I'm sure of is that Abbess Jingyi won't be able to catch me. And that's good. Zhang Xiaohu breathed a sigh of relief. I always thought that you were far inferior to Abbess Jingyi. That's because he hid it well. Zhang Xiaohua's tail began to stick up. Now that the qi of heaven and earth is scarce, Nun Jingyi and the others can't achieve great success by relying on the qi of heaven and earth. They can only rely on a limited number of primordial stones. How high can their cultivation be? Primordial stones? Zhang Xiaohu asked curiously. What's that? Hee hee, there's no need to rush to find out. Second brother, let me ask you, how's your cultivation of the broken blade force and the Kuan Pong transformation? Zhang Xiaohu said with a bitter face, I've already understood the broken blade force. It's just how to convert the inner strength of the martial Tao into the immortal Tao's true qi and use the martial Tao's true qi. You said it yourself that I only need to know how to use true qi. I've already done that. But the Kuan Pong transformation is a bit troublesome. When I released my perception, I could only sense strands of true qi around me. When I guided those strands of true qi into my meridians, I couldn't feel anything at all. Then what's next? How do you refine the true qi after it enters your body? Didn't I tell you to make the same assumptions as the martial Tao? Do you feel like you've already guided the true qi into your meridians? I've tried, but it's like punching the air. There's no force behind it. I can't refine true qi at all. Oh. Zhang Xiaohua nodded, then asked again, Then, have you tried to refine the true qi in your dantian? Zhang Xiaohu shook his head. I don't know how to refine it at all. How can I refine Founder Yang's true qi? Sigh. Zhang Xiaohua let out a long sigh, her face full of bitterness. Zhang Xiaohu was shocked. What's wrong? Is there a problem? Yes, there's a problem, a big problem. Zhang Xiaohua sighed. My life is really bitter. When I entered the immortal Tao, I had to figure everything out myself. I'm not like you. You only have to tell me, and I can explain it to you and point you in the right direction. Having a master is really good. Hearing this, Zhang Xiaohu finally felt relieved. He curled his lips. How about, I call you master too? Don't. Zhang Xiaohua quickly waved her hand. If you call me that, won't mother beat me? As she spoke, she took out a small primordial stone and handed it over. This is the primordial stone. Isn't this a small stone? Is it the thing you put in the water tank? Zhang Xiaohu was curious. Then he realized. So, the spring water that father and mother drink has the primordial qi of heaven and earth? Hee hee. No wonder mother and father, and Mr. Liu don't look old at all these years. They even look a few years younger. Yes. Zhang Xiaohua smiled and explained what the primordial stone was. Then she lowered her voice and told Zhang Xiaohu how to absorb the primordial qi from the primordial stone. Zhang Xiaohu was very happy. With this primordial stone, he didn't need to absorb the primordial qi of heaven and earth into his body. Then, the effect of his cultivation would be very different. At this time, he also understood what Zhang Xiaohua meant by opportunity and cultivation. Also, second brother, the immortal Tao true qi is different from the martial Tao inner force. You haven't refined your own true qi in your meridians, so don't show your immortal Tao cultivation for the time being. Okay. I know what to do. Zhang Xiaohu nodded. All right, second brother, go do what you need to do. I'm also going to go refine pills. Zhang Xiaohua stood up and stretched with a smile. Thank you for your hard work, Xiaohua. Zhang Xiaohu looked at his little brother who never let him say thank you, but he still said the word, thank you. Zhang Xiaohua waved her hand and said, It's nothing. I have nothing to do anyway, so why don't I refine pills for fun? Gosh, Zhang Xiaohu was very jealous for no reason. Let's not talk about Zhang Xiaohua treating refining pills as a game, and let's not talk about Zhang Xiaohu's discussion with Chu Yunfei. Thousands of miles away in the Dalan Temple, because of the Yaoshan Immortal Abode's matter, Abbot Changgung brought Great Master Changgung, Great Master Changxing, and a group of elites to Yaoshan Immortal Abode. Only Great Master Changhui of the Great Wisdom Hall was left to guard the temple. Great Master Changhui was a thin old monk. His eyebrows and beard were only white. At this time, he was sitting in the Great Wisdom Hall, carefully reciting Buddhist scriptures. A burst of hurried footsteps sounded. A young monk hurriedly ran in with a face full of fear. Great Master! Great Master! The moment the monk entered the courtyard, he shouted. Great Master Changhui frowned slightly, but his face remained benevolent. When the monk entered the room, he reprimanded, Yuan Qing, as a Buddhist disciple, a tranquil mind is the foundation. How can you achieve greatness if you are so impetuous?
But
Yuan Qing wanted to defend himself, but Great Master Changhui flicked his sleeve and said, stand by the side and breathe carefully. Let me finish reading this scripture first. But, yes, great master. Yuan Qing stopped his pointless argument and wiped the sweat from his forehead. He pressed his palms together and lowered his head to look at the ground. His rapidly heaving chest gradually calmed down. Seeing how obedient Yuan Qing was, the corners of Grandmaster Zhan Hui's mouth curled up into a smile. He sat down steadily and flipped through the scriptures. After half a cup of tea's time, Grandmaster Zhan Hui finally raised his head and slowly said, "Is there anything I can help you with?" Yuan Qing? Great Master, there's a change in the pagoda forest. The origin returning pagoda suddenly emitted a bright light. Yuan Qing seemed to have already prepared his words. His answer was simple and clear. What? The origin returning pagoda emitted a bright light. Great Master Chang Hui's expression changed drastically. He reprimanded, "Why didn't you inform me of such an important matter earlier?" However, before he could finish his sentence, Great Master Chang Hui stood up and used his top-notch qinggong to cross the river on a reed. His figure was like a fluttering bamboo leaf. With a whoosh, he dashed out, leaving only an afterimage in front of Yuan Qing's eyes. Ah? Yuan Qing was clearly stunned by Great Master Chang Hui's qinggong. After a while, he regained his senses and praised in admiration, as expected of a great master. Your qinggong is unparalleled. Even your ability to remain calm is something I can't compare to. With that, Great Master Chang Hui left the Wisdom Hall. His figure flashed as he headed straight for the temple's entrance. However, before he could reach the temple's entrance, he saw a faint Buddhist glow rising into the sky from the pagoda forest behind the Dalan Temple. In the Dalan Temple, the monks all had different expressions. Some were surprised, some were delighted, and some were terrified and sad. Although their moods were different, they all left their meditation areas and swarmed towards the temple's entrance. Needless to say, they all wanted to see the strange situation in the pagoda forest. Great Master Chang Hui lagged behind. Seeing this, Great Master Chang Hui couldn't help but feel a little angry. Just as he was about to reprimand Yuan Qing, he looked up and saw many bald heads gathering outside the temple. In the time it took Yuan Qing to report to him, many of his disciples had already arrived at the pagoda forest. Therefore, he couldn't be bothered to ask his disciples to turn back. He took a deep breath and circulated his inner strength, speeding up his pace. When he arrived at the pagoda forest, he couldn't help but gasp. He saw the origin returning pagoda, which was built against the mountain, emitting a faint Buddhist glow that illuminated the surroundings. The Buddhist glow was divided into 9 colors, and in each color, there were countless fairies, Buddhas, halls, lotus flowers, yakshas, and other objects. These images rippled with the colors as they swayed slightly. They appeared lifelike, as though they were about to shed their colors. Looking up into the sky, at the top of the origin returning pagoda, there were flames that soared into the sky like a torch burning 1,000 feet in the air. In the flames, there were countless people and objects. These people and objects were constantly changing, like an independent Buddhist kingdom that was displaying the incomparable power of the Buddhist Dharma. Please cast a monthly vote, a recommendation vote, a bookmark, and a tip. Thank you. If you like this work, you are welcome to cast a recommendation vote or a monthly vote at Chidian. Calm. -4. Chapter 1108. Umidba. Excellent, excellent. Seeing this, Master Zhan Hui clasped his hands together and bowed his head, secretly praising, Buddhism is boundless. Zhan Hui, are you in the temple? Where are Changsheng and the others? A loud voice came from the upper left side of Master Zhan Hui. Ah, Master Yuandao? Master Zhan Hui turned his head and saw a monk who was much thinner than him floating in the air. He couldn't help but exclaim. However, when he looked behind him and saw 2 other old monks floating in the air, he was even more shocked. Master Yuanming, Master Yuanwu, you have all come out? How can we not know about the changes in the Guiyuan Tower? How can we hide and cultivate peacefully? A monk's voice was a little hoarse. Where is Changsheng? Is he not in the temple? Yes, Master Yuanming. Abbot Chongqing left the temple long ago with junior brother Chongqing and senior brother Chongqing, as well as a group of disciples in the temple. Such a big commotion? What are they doing there? Master Yuanwu, according to the disciples' report, a seven-colored radiance has appeared in Yao Mountain recently. It's rumored that an immortal treasure has appeared. Abbot Chongqing brought the disciples to investigate. An immortal treasure? Master Yuanwu frowned and nodded slightly. Then we should go and take a look. Don't let that thing fall into the hands of others. Yes, Abbot Chongqing said so too. That's why he let the disciples stay in the temple while he brought the elites of the temple to Yao Mountain. He wants to bring the immortal treasure back to the Dalan temple and keep it by Buddha's side. Master Yuanwu ignored him and looked at Yuanming and Yuandao. The three of them were expressionless. Master Yuanwu, this Guiyuan Tower. After waiting for a while and looking at the Buddhist radiance for a while, Master Zhanhui probed. According to the records in the temple, the Dalan temple has a teaching. The appearance of the Buddhist radiance in the Guiyuan Tower is a Guiyuan tribulation. All accomplished monks will have to face this tribulation. I wonder, how will the Dalan temple deal with this? Master Yuandao was expressionless. He looked at the soaring radiance and the Buddhist kingdom in the radiance and said, "How will we deal with it? We've already dealt with it. What else can we do?" This, Grandmaster Zhanhui was slightly taken aback, but he immediately understood. He put his palms together and chanted, "This disciple understands. Excellent, excellent." As he spoke, the Buddhist light on the origin returning tower shone brightly, as if it was about to burn. In the blink of an eye, a pitch-black fog abruptly appeared from the bottom of the Buddhist light. The moment the black fog appeared, it turned into a black thread that wrapped around the bottom of the Buddhist light. Then, they saw the black line move upwards, bit by bit, gradually engulfing the Buddha's flame. The originally nine-colored light slowly turned black. When the entire Buddha's light was dyed black, the surroundings of the pagoda forest became gloomy. The monks could not help but shrink their necks. After the Buddhist light turned black, its shape began to change. After a while, it gradually stabilized. From afar, it looked like a black lotus. Origin returning tribulation. This is the origin returning tribulation. Master Yuandao muttered. Although the Buddhist Dharma is boundless, it doesn't transcend those who are not fated. Only by facing the tribulation with one's body can one cultivate the boundless tribulation and transcend the boundless. That's right. Buddha is merciful. He faced the tribulation with his body and transformed into a Buddhist lotus. He underwent nirvana with the demonic tribulation, bathing in the demonic flames to be reborn. This is the origin returning tribulation. The black fire lotus verified Master Yuandao's mutterings. With a few swaying motions, it suddenly converged. The origin returning tower returned to its original appearance. The surrounding sky and white mountains also returned to their original colors. Master Zhanhui had only read the manuals and had never seen it before. At that moment, he was dumbfounded by what he saw. When he saw such a mesmerizing scene, he could not help but exclaim. Following that, he rubbed his eyes in disbelief and exclaimed again, "Eh?" This was because in his eyes, the origin returning tower seemed to have suffered damage to its yuan qi. It looked like a person, a lot more dispirited. How is this possible? Master Zhanhui was about to take a closer look when he saw a figure transform from behind the origin returning tower and fly straight towards them. Who is this? Master Zhanhui was completely dumbfounded. Today was truly an eye-opener for him. There was actually a monk with a cultivation level higher than Master Yuandao and company. Of course, the figure quickly arrived in front of him. It was a bald monk. Could it be the one from the origin returning tower? Master Zhanhui's heart skipped a beat. However, when he saw the monk's face gradually turn clear, Master Zhanhui could not help but feel puzzled. Why does this old monk look so familiar? But where have I seen him before? Not only was Master Zhanhui puzzled, all the monks in the Dalan temple were dumbfounded. Only Master Yuandao, Master Yuanming, and Master Yuanwu, who were floating in midair, showed reverence when they saw the old monk. They conjured their dermic powers and went forward to welcome him. When they came close, they pressed their palms together and bowed. "Greetings, Master Heavenly Dipper. Master Heavenly Dipper. He is Master Heavenly Dipper." Master Zhan Hui let out a sound from the bottom of his heart. The expression on his face was immediately replaced by reverence and desire. It was as if he had seen a figure from a dream. Master Zhan Hui could not help but feel reverence for him. Master Heavenly Dipper was 3 generations older than Master Zhan Hui and was also from the Prajna Hall. He was a famous figure in the pugilistic world 100 years ago. His cultivation in the way of immortality was comparable to the previous Sakra of the Tenryu sect. In the stories of the Dalan Temple 100 years ago, Master Heavenly Dipper was almost always the main character. His limelight completely overshadowed the abbot of his generation. He was almost the representative of the Dalan Temple. 100 years ago, the pugilistic world might not know who the abbot of the Dalan Temple was, but it was impossible not to know the name of Master Heavenly Dipper from the Prajna Hall. However, later on, Heavenly Dipper killed his way to the Tenryu sect alone and wanted to fight with the leader of the Tenryu sect, Sakra, to see who was the most powerful person in the world. However, Heavenly Dipper never returned. No one in the pugilistic world knew the result of that battle, and no one knew who was the most powerful person in the world. The Tenryu sect also did not announce the result of that battle. However, not long after, the Tenryu sect ceased all activities in the pugilistic world and lost a lot of their arrogance. Master Zhan Hui grew up listening to the legends of Master Heavenly Dipper. Now that he saw the real person, how could he not be shocked? An all-powerful figure 100 years ago had actually survived until now. Master Heavenly Dipper descended to the same height as Master Yuandao and the rest. He also bowed slightly and said in a low voice, "Have you seen the origin returning tribulation? This disciple has seen it. Please enlighten me." Master Heavenly Dipper shook his head. "This old monk has nothing to enlighten you on. The last origin returning tribulation was 100 years ago. This old monk's cultivation is not high, so I did not go deep into the pugilistic world to face the tribulation. The Dalan Temple did not have many changes, and the pugilistic world did not have any big waves. This is the first time this old monk has seen it, just like all of you." Then, he turned to look at the origin returning tower and said, "This old monk felt the change in the chi of heaven and earth and rushed over immediately. I saw the whole process of the origin returning tribulation, but the origin returning tower is a space of its own. Divine sense cannot enter, so this old monk also does not know what happened inside." "Then, how should we face the tribulation?" Master Yuanming asked carefully. "Didn't Changsheng already go out? Yao Mountain has a magical treasure of the immortal Tao, causing the entire pugilistic world to be in an uproar. This is the place where we face the tribulation. We will follow Master's instructions and leave the temple to search for martial nephew Changsheng. You all go first. This old monk will go when the time is right." After Master Heavenly Dipper finished speaking, he flew in front of Master Zhan Hui and said with a smile, "Zhan Hui, you bear the heavy responsibility of guarding the temple, so you don't have to face the tribulation. Take care of yourself." "Yes." Master Zhan Hui bowed and lowered his head. When he looked up, Master Heavenly Dipper had already flown into the Dalan Temple in the direction of the Sutra Depository. Ah? Master Zhan Hui finally remembered. Wasn't Master Heavenly Dipper the old monk who swept the floor of the Sutra Depository? Ever since he was young, he had been sweeping the floor of the Sutra Depository. "It's all right," Master Zhan Hui recalled. Although he was surprised by Master Heavenly Dipper in the Sutra Depository, he had always been respectful and did not show any disrespect. Master Yuandao, Master Yuanming, and Master Yuanwu looked at each other and lowered their heads, saying, "Martial nephew Zhan Hui, we'll leave the Dalan Temple to you. Discipline your disciples and take care of yourself." "I understand." Master Zhan Hui pressed his palms together and bowed. "I wish the 3 of you a speedy return from the tribulation." Master Yuandao and the others nodded slightly. With a flick of their sleeves, they floated into the air and gradually disappeared into the distance. Seeing the 3 masters' backs disappear, Master Zhan Hui waved his hand and shouted, Disciples, return to the temple immediately. Without my permission, you are not to leave the temple. Yes, the disciples of the Dalan temple finally heaved a sigh of relief. They did not know about the origin returning tribulation, so their eyes were filled with curiosity and passion. In just a moment, the Dalan temple's forest of pagodas returned to the silence that had remained unchanged for tens of thousands of years. Not a single monk remained in the Dalan temple. However, what remained unchanged was the surface. What about the inside of the forest of pagodas? What about the inside of the origin returning tower? Who would know? Perhaps the cold wind that had remained unchanged for tens of thousands of years and the setting sun that had remained unchanged since time immemorial would reveal everything that no one knew. Outside Pingyang City, in the meeting hall of the ethereal heights, Chu Yunfei was telling Li Jin and the others about the actions of the young disciples of the Misty School led by Hu Yunyi over the past few years. Just then, he saw Zhang Xiaohu walk in with a relaxed expression. Sect leader Zhang, Chu Yunfei stood up politely. When Li Jin and the others heard this, they also turned around and hurriedly stood up. When Wenhai took a few steps forward and asked with concern, "How is it? Xiaohu, what did we do?" While Zhang Xiaohu was away, when Wenhai thought of all the possible solutions, they could only silence them by killing them. However, putting aside the fact that Zhang Xiaohu's martial arts were not good enough, even if they killed the two of them, how would the disciples of the Misty School be able to deal with the disciples of the Fragrance Cult who were on par with them in terms of strength? The young disciples of the Misty School and the older generation of disciples who had recovered some of their martial arts were only slightly stronger than the disciples of the Fragrance Cult. Seeing his master's concern, Zhang Xiaohu smiled and said, "Don't worry, master. Don't worry. Please vote for me. Please add me to your collection. Please tip me. Thank you." -4. Chapter 1109. Li Jin, Wenhai, and the others sat down with a belly full of questions. However, Lu Qingyang jumped out of his chair and laughed. "Gang leader Zhang, how did you deal with those two little bastards? You must have a good talk with me." Before Zhang Xiaohu could speak, Chu Yunfei said in surprise, "Grandmaster Lu, your injury?" Then, he walked up to Lu Qingyang and said with a look of surprise and disbelief, "I heard that after the battle at Misty Peak, after Grandmaster who took us away from the back of the mountain, all the disciples were captured. Except for those with weak martial arts, all of them were crippled of their martial arts. Grandmaster Lu, didn't you have your joints crushed and collapsed, unable to stand? Could it be the rumors in Jianghu are wrong? Oh, I forgot." When Lu Qingyang heard this, he immediately slapped his forehead and jumped back to his seat. He then yelled, "Chu Yunfei, which eye of yours saw me get up?" Chu Yunfei was stunned and didn't know what to do. Li Jin looked at Lu Qingyang and then at Zhang Xiaohu and said angrily, "Get up, old fifth Lu. Chu Yunfei is not an outsider. If he saw you, he saw you. Don't pretend anymore." Lu Qingyang still got up and said shamelessly, "Second brother, you asked me to get up. Don't blame me if the news is leaked." Zhang Xiaohu had already sat down on the faction leader's seat. Looking at Li Jin's questioning eyes, he said with a smile, "Elder Lu, please get up. This is for the disciples of the incense cult. There's no reason to hide it from Brother Chu." "Hee, I'll get up." Lu Qingyang jumped up again and shouted, "Faction leader Zhang, tell me, how did you subdue those two little bastards?" Zhang Xiaohu spread out his hands and said with a smile, "Nothing else. Just facts and reason." "Ah, that's it?" Lu Qingyang didn't believe it. "You didn't use your fists?" Zhang Xiaohu looked like he didn't care whether he believed it or not, and said, "That's it. What can I do to them?"
But
Lu Qingyang was about to say something when Li Jin scolded, "If clan leader Zhang says it's okay, then it's okay. Old fifth Lu, don't ask too much." "Okay," Lu Qingyang murmured, but his heart was tense. He had never heard such a convincing person. "Hallmaster Qin, find someone to call Dufeng and Ding Chao back." Zhang Xiaohu instructed. Yes, although Aunt Qin didn't understand, she still answered. "Ancestor Lu, your injuries, what's going on?" Chu Yunfei still didn't forget to ask. "It's nothing, that's all. I don't know myself, that's all." Seeing Li Jian winking at him, Lu Qingyang didn't know how to answer and could only mumble. Then, what about Master Ancestor Li? Chu Yunfei asked, unwilling to give up. Li Jian smiled and said ambiguously, it's hard to say. Brother Chu, you don't need to ask too much. Right now, my Misty School is in a delicate situation, and there are many things that I can't explain to you in detail. You only need to know that the current Misty School is the same as the previous Misty School. The incense teaching is only a test for my Misty School. Now that the test is about to end, I represent all the disciples of the Misty School to welcome Elder Hu back to Misty Mountain Villa with another group of disciples. Although Chu Yunfei didn't get what he wanted to know, looking at Li Jian's smile, Lu Qingyang, who was standing steadily beside him, and the smiling faces of Wen Hai, Xueqing, and Lu Yueming, how could he not know that a major change had occurred? Li Jian and the others didn't say anything, not because they didn't trust him, but because they were afraid that the news would leak out and affect the revival of the Misty School. This disciple knows, this disciple knows, this disciple will definitely pass this news on to Master Ancestor Hu. Chu Yunfei was so happy that he was incoherent. At this time, a disciple entered the meeting hall and whispered a few words in front of Aunt Qin. Aunt Qin's expression changed greatly. She waved her hand and dismissed the disciple. Then she said nervously, Sect Leader Zhang, bad news. Ding Chao and Du Feng are missing. Ah? Everyone was shocked. Zhang Xiaohu asked nervously, what happened? Reporting to Sect Leader, according to this disciple, I saw 2 Vice Hall Masters personally standing guard around the villa, but when I asked them to come to the meeting hall, they were nowhere to be seen. I don't know where they went. Sect Leader, could it be those 2 brats from the incense teaching school who did it? Lu Qingyang shouted. Impossible. Zhang Xiaohu denied. But where could they have gone? Li Jian also frowned. Zhang Xiaohu's heart skipped a beat. Before he could speak, he heard a rush of light footsteps outside the meeting hall. Zhang Xiaohu's lips curled into a smile. Du Feng and Ding Chao used their qinggong to leap into the meeting hall. Seeing everyone in the hall, the 2 of them looked back with lingering fear, as if something unbelievable had just happened. Ahem, Ding Chao, Du Feng, where did you go? Zhang Xiaohu saw that the 2 of them looked as if they had seen a ghost and became even more determined. He held back the laughter in his heart and asked, This? Du Feng and Ding Chao looked at each other and didn't know what to say. Lu Qingyang scolded, Sect Leader Zhang is asking you something. How can you be negligent? Could it be that Ming Qing and Gao Kunheng did something to you? Xueqing asked. Well, Ding Chao thought for a moment, then gritted his teeth and said, Faction Leader Zhang, Masters, please forgive me for being unfilial. I've already promised others that I won't tell them the whole story. Please don't force me. When Lu Qingyang heard this, he almost wanted to use his alms bowl-sized fist to beat him up. It was fine if he didn't want to tell them, but he had succeeded in provoking others' curiosity. This wasn't killing the cat, it was killing people. When everyone looked at Du Feng again, the expression on Du Feng's face relaxed a little. What about you, Du Feng? You can't tell your masters either, right? Lu Yueming asked with a smile. Du Feng waved his hand. No, there's nothing I can't say. That senior didn't say anything to me before. It's just that I didn't see the senior's face these 2 times. I don't even know if it's a man or a woman. It's a man. I can tell from his voice. Ding Chao added. Du Feng glared at Ding Chao and said, What I mean is that I didn't see his face at all. Ding Chao smiled and didn't say anything. Then what exactly happened? Du Feng, tell us. Zhang Xiaohu asked even though he already knew the answer. Sure enough, Du Feng thought for a moment and told them what happened on Shixin Peak. Before he finished, Li Jian and Wen Hai were shocked. They looked at Zhang Xiaohu and wanted to ask. Zhang Xiaohu was surprised and asked curiously, You said, after you took that elixir, there was a heat flow in your meridians? Then, after refining that heat flow, my inner strength improved greatly? Yes? Could it be that Sect Leader Zhang has taken it before? Du Feng asked curiously. I haven't taken it before, but I've heard of it. Zhang Xiaohu looked at Li Jian and said, Go on. Yes, Sect Leader Zhang. Du Feng cleared his throat and said, Just now, Ding Chao and I were guarding outside the villa. We were afraid that the disciples of the incense cult would go out to spread the news. But as we were walking, we suddenly felt a pain in our back and everything went black. When we woke up, we were in the bushes beside the road. I used my chi and found that my acupoints were sealed. There was a short black shadow in front of me, hiding his body in a cloak. Ah? He captured both of you at once? Li Jian felt that it was a bit unbelievable. Yes, ancestrally, that's exactly what happened. Ding Chao added. What did that person do to you? When Wen Hai asked, that person didn't do anything. He just told us that he was a person who had a deep relationship with the Misty School. He was the one who gave us the elixir on Serene Peak and helped us improve our skills. How is that possible? How could he go to Serene Peak? Lu Qingyang's face was full of disbelief. But I had Qigong deviation on Serene Peak. There was no one around, and this senior clearly described the situation at that time. I can't help but believe it. Du Feng looked at Ding Chao and said, and looking at senior brother Ding, what the senior said about him must be true. Ding Chao blushed and said, that's right. That matter. Only I and junior sister know. There is no fourth person who knows. I can confirm that it was that senior. That's right. Because it was at Serene Peak, Disciple had thought that it was an elder of Fragrant Cult. Disciple was conflicted. Now that I've heard that this senior has a deep relationship with our Misty sect and is not from Fragrant Cult, Disciple's heart is at ease. Du Feng seemed to be relieved. Me too. I finally figured out that my martial arts have nothing to do with the incense cult. Ding Chao also laughed. Then why do you look like that? Like you saw a ghost? Reporting to Ancestrally because after that senior left, I found that the place where I was very far from the Misty Mountain Villa. It was absolutely impossible for me to get there in a short time. This subordinate waited for the time it takes to brew a cup of tea. But when I asked the disciple on duty, this subordinate also left for the time it takes to brew a cup of tea. So, faction leader Zhang, what do you think? Lu Yueming asked softly. Haha, I can't say much because I also promised this senior that I would never tell anyone. Zhang Xiaohu said with a smile. Ah? Li Jian and the others exclaimed and stood up. Could it be we are all the benefactors of this senior? Yes, I was also hesitant before, but after listening to Ding Chao and Du Feng, I can confirm that it is this senior. Zhang Xiaohu emphasized this senior, but he was laughing in his heart. Finally, the matter of the elixir and Zhang Xiaohua was perfectly covered up. Presumably, all the things in the future could be pushed to Zhang Xiaohua, this so-called senior. Please cast a monthly vote. Please cast a recommendation vote. Please collect. Please tip. Thank you. -4. Chapter 11:10. After listening to Zhang Xiaohu's explanation, Li Jian, Wen Hai and the others suddenly understood. To be honest, they had been muttering in their hearts. To be able to restore the martial arts of thousands of Misty School disciples who had been crippled, this was definitely not a simple matter. In the Jianghu, it was simply a miracle. Although they trusted Zhang Xiaohu, they were always worried about Zhang Xiaohu's methods. Yes, with Zhang Xiaohu's methods, it was absolutely impossible for him to have such an ability. As for Zhang Xiaohu said, did he get the magical elixir from the Twilight Orchid Refinement? Please, they were all people who had been in the Jianghu and had also been through the extermination of a sect. How could they be deceived by such a simple reason? However, the restoration of martial arts was obvious to all, and it was also true that they had taken down the Misty Heights. If not, they would almost believe that Zhang Xiaohu was a spy specially cultivated by Nun Jingyi. However, just for a spy, to restore the martial arts of all the Misty School disciples? This was too much of a price. And, with Du Feng and Ding Chao, these two unrelated examples, Zhang Xiaohu's explanation seemed to be very easy to accept. Therefore, Li Jian said again, then, who is this person? Who can have such a magical elixir and follow me to Serene Peak? Someone who has a great relationship with the Misty School. Thinking about it, there can only be one person. Zhang Xiaohu was shocked and whispered, this senior has already said that we can't leak it out. It's better for us not to make wild guesses. Li Jin frowned. Senior naturally has his reasons for saying this, but we are indebted to him, so we can't not know. I thought for a long time, and only the one in Huanqi Villa has a slight possibility. With a thump, Zhang Xiaohu's heart skipped a beat. He looked a little flustered and said, Ancestrally, we still have guests here. Let's talk to them first. However, Li Jin acted as if he didn't hear him. After muttering for a while, he asked again, Faction leader Zhang, don't you think that senior is missing an arm? Sigh. Zhang Xiaohu finally heaved a sigh of relief and shook his head slightly. I've never seen that senior's full appearance, and I don't even know if he's missing an arm. I don't think so. Du Feng shook his head and said, that senior seemed to use both of his hands when he healed me. And, just now in the cloak, it didn't seem like. Oh right, Grandmasterly, if it was only one arm, how could you take me and senior brother Ding away together? That's true. Li Jin nodded. Zhang Xiaohu couldn't let Li Jin guess blindly, so he hurriedly said to Chu Yunfei, Brother Chu, did Elder Hu say when he will return to Misty Heights? Hearing this, Chu Yunfei cupped his hands and said, reporting to faction leader Zhang, Elder Hu knew that the Misty School was restored, so he was very happy and had been looking forward to coming back. But he also knew that there must be something wrong, so he sent his disciples to take a look. If the Misty School was controlled by my Misty School's disciples, even if there were disciples of the incense cult, Elder Hu would still come back to help faction leader Zhang. Haha, that's great. Zhang Xiaohua clapped his hands and said, Brother Chu must have seen that my Misty School has many things waiting to be done. We just need Elder Hu and the other elders of the Misty School to come back and revitalize my Misty School together. Li Jin thought for a while, but he had no clue. He had to pull his thoughts back and nodded. That's right. Now the Misty School is the Misty School of the Misty Heights. We are all hiding our strength. If Basu comes back, the strength of our Misty School will increase greatly. Who will worry about the disciples of the incense cult? Well, Grandmasterly, don't worry about this. Mingqing and Gao Kunheng will not do anything harmful to our Misty School in the future. And with their support, I think those disciples of the incense cult will be honest and obedient. That's good. I forgot about this. Li Jin smiled. Well, Du Feng, you accompany Brother Chu and let him see the current Misty Heights, so that he can go back and report to Elder Hu. Tomorrow at noon, you all come to the conference hall. I have something important to announce. Yes, Grand Faction Master. Not only did Du Feng stand up, Li Jin and the others also stood up. Oh right, Grand Faction Master Zhang, I have a private matter that I want to ask you. Chu Yunfei saw that Zhang Xiaohu was about to leave, so he quickly said, So it's like this. Zhang Xiaohu smiled and said, Then I'll have to ask the elders to leave for a while? Li Jin smiled and left first. After everyone left, Chu Yunfei said embarrassedly, Grand Faction Master Zhang, do you have a younger brother named Zhang Xiaohua? Zhang Xiaohu smiled and said, Haha, of course. Zhang Xiaohua is my younger brother. Then, without waiting for Chu Yunfei to say anything, Zhang Xiaohu said again, Xiaohua has already told me that he met you in Songning Town. Haha, that's good. I've been wondering that I didn't meet a disciple of our Misty School. Since he's your younger brother, I should thank him even more. I wonder, where is Zhang Xiaohua? Well, Zhang Xiaohu hesitated and said, Xiaohua is in Huanqi Villa, but I don't know if he's there now. Well, I'll go back and have a look. If he's there, I'll tell him what you mean, okay? That's good, Chu Yunfei said gratefully. Your younger brother is not only good at martial arts, but also very close to your brother. He knew that Grand Faction Master Zhang might have gone to the incense cult, so he insisted on going with you. But I don't know where the incense cult is, and Elder Hu doesn't know either. So, Zhang Xiaohu smiled and said, Brother Chu, you're right. But the incense cult is a long journey. My younger brother is still young. Even if he wants to go, he doesn't have enough strength. Later, when he got your message, he gave up looking for me. I just went back to the Misty Peak recently and brought my family here. My younger brother naturally came with me. Well, I hope Grand Faction Master Zhang can tell him what I mean. I also hope to thank him in person for saving my life. Okay, I'll tell him. But I don't know if he's at home, Zhang Xiaohu said with a smile. After Chu Yunfei left, Zhang Xiaohu also went back to the Huanxi villa. Sure enough, Zhang Xiaohua was not in the small courtyard at all. She must have gone to the alchemy room of the Misty Palace to refine pills. Thinking of what Zhang Xiaohua had done for the Misty School, Zhang Xiaohu was a little embarrassed. It seemed that she had done more than him. The title of Grand Faction Master of the Misty School should be Zhang Xiaohua. She's the founder of the Beidou School. Why would she care about the Grand Faction Master of the Misty School? Zhang Xiaohu could not help but smile bitterly. Everyone's pursuit was really different. In the alchemy room, 7 alchemy furnaces were melting together. Zhang Xiaohua was sitting cross-legged. She sneezed several times in a row, which made him wonder, although the weather is starting to get cold, it shouldn't be so bad. The next morning, Zhang Xiaohu did not go to the conference hall. Instead, he went straight to the back mountain of the Misty School. He stayed in the place where the disciples of the Righteous Alliance were imprisoned for a long time. He did not leave until it was almost noon. Du Feng had received Zhang Xiaohu's order. He accompanied Chu Yunfei the whole morning to see all the places of the Misty Mountain Villa. The more Chu Yunfei looked, the more excited he was. The Misty Mountain Villa was the place where he grew up. How could he not have feelings for it? Now that he saw that the Misty Mountain Villa was no different from before, his amiable fellow apprentices were diligently practicing martial arts. This had long evoked his homesickness. When he returned to the conference hall, before Zhang Xiaohu could say anything, Chu Yunfei bowed and said, reporting to Grand Faction Master Zhang, "This disciple has been accompanied by Vice Hall Leader. It seems that the Misty Mountain Villa is quite different from what this disciple had imagined." Zhang Xiaohu said with a smile, "Brother Chu, what did you think before?" Chu Yunfei hesitated for a moment and said without any trace of politeness, "This disciple thought that Grand Faction Master Zhang was just a figurehead. The people who could speak were the disciples of the fragrance cult. Elder Li, Elder Lu, even Martial Uncle Wan and Martial Uncle Lu did not come back with Grand Faction Master Zhang. They were left in the fragrance cult as hostages." Ha ha ha. Zhang Xiaohu laughed and said, "Brother Chu, you are very imaginative. But what you said is probably what everyone in Jianghu thinks. There is nothing strange about it. Grand Faction Master Zhang is right. Elder Hu told this disciple to observe carefully and carefully. But when I saw Elder Li yesterday, I was already relieved. This Misty School is still our Misty School. Nothing has changed." Good. Zhang Xiaohu clapped his hands and said, "I am also very much looking forward to Elder Hu's return. Only when Elder Hu and the others come back can our Misty School really be restored to its former Misty School." Yes, this is also what this disciple hopes for. Chu Yunfei said with a smile, "So this disciple will not stay here any longer. I will hurry back and report this matter to Elder Hu. If there is no accident, there should be a reply in 10 days. So fast." Zhang Xiaohu was stunned and then said with a smile, "Look, Elder Hu has also been paying attention to ethereal heights for a long time. Yes, as early as the news that the Misty School's disciples returned to ethereal heights came, Elder Hu began to prepare. Now that the news is correct, of course, he will come back as soon as possible. That's good. Then I will have to trouble Brother Chu. I will be waiting for Elder Hu and the other brothers in ethereal heights." "I don't dare. Grand Faction Master Zhang, please call me Chu Yunfei." Chu Yunfei thought for a moment and asked, "About what I said yesterday?" "Haha, Brother Chu, unfortunately, my brother was not at home last night. My family doesn't know where he went. I am afraid that you can't see him now. Brother Chu will return to ethereal heights in a few days. Won't there be many opportunities to meet?" Chu Yunfei was a little disappointed, but he still cupped his hands and said, "Grand Faction Master Zhang is right. I will leave now. See you in a few days. My Misty School has a very important meeting in the afternoon. Brother Chu, don't you want to listen to it?" Zhang Xiaohu smiled and asked him to stay. "Please vote monthly, please vote recommendation, please collect, please tip, thank you." -4. Chapter 11:11. No, I don't have the qualifications to participate in the meeting, so I won't take part in this. I still want to report the situation here to Elder Hu so that I can return to Ethereal Mountain Villa as soon as possible. Chu Yunfei didn't hide his eagerness to return. "All right, since Brother Chu says so, I won't keep you. Please. Zhang Xiaohu stood up to see him out. Chu Yunfei didn't dare to let the Misty School's faction master see him out. He quickly bowed and said, I'll take my leave. Please stay, faction master. I'm good. Du Feng, help me see Chu Yunfei out. Then inform Elder Li, Elder Lu, and Elder One. Yes, I'll follow your orders. Du Feng replied, and then sent Chu Yun out. Ding Chao, go to the pharmacy hall and invite Vice Faction Master Ming Qing and Vice Faction Master Gao Kunheng here for a meeting. Then go to the back of Ethereal Mountain and bring the people from the Alliance of Righteous Sects here. Ding Chao was confused, but he still nodded and left. Hall Master Qin, please call the disciples from Fledgling Hall, Mingxue Hall, Divine Machine Hall, and Law Enforcement Hall who were qualified to come to the meeting hall. Ask them to come to the meeting hall as well. Yes, as you command, Grand Faction Master, Madame Qin replied. However, she turned around halfway and said, Faction Master Zhang, you're making such a big fuss. Are you going to break off relations with the incense cult? We don't have the strength to do that yet. Faction Master Zhang, please reconsider. Thank you for your advice, Hall Master Qin. I know what to do. You can go now. Zhang Xiaohua said nonchalantly. Sigh. Madame Qin could only sigh and walk out of the meeting hall. In the time it took to eat a meal, everyone had arrived. The meeting hall was filled with people. However, it was the first time that most of the disciples had entered the meeting hall after the calamity. The leader of this meeting hall had also changed. Hence, they did not dare to speak and just stood there quietly. The last ones to enter were Li Jian and Lu Qingyang. The two of them immediately saw Ming Qing and Gao Kunheng sitting on the chairs to the right of Zhang Xiaohu. Lu Qingyang's expression changed, and he hurriedly looked around for a reclining chair. However, he didn't expect the two of them to come. He didn't make any preparations at all. Where could he find one now? Seeing Lu Qingyang's appearance, the corners of Zhang Xiaohu's mouth curled into a smile. He beckoned Lu Qingyang over. Lu Qingyang looked at Li Jian, then glared at Ming Qing and Gao Kunheng. He went straight to Zhang Xiaohu and asked in a low voice, Grand Gang Leader Zhang, why? Did you ask me to come here? Zhang Xiaohu smiled and said, because I want to tell you that from today onwards, Elder Lu, you don't have to pretend that your injuries haven't healed. Next to him, Li Jian was stunned. He looked at Lu Qingyang with a strange expression. He didn't know what Zhang Xiaohu was trying to sell. Elders, please take a seat. Listen to me. Yes, as you command, Grand Gang Leader. Li Jian and Lu Qingyang sat on the chairs to the left of Zhang Xiaohu. Hey, who are those two people? Lu Qingyang looked at the two people next to Ming Qing and was stunned. Shoo, don't ask first. I don't know either. Let's wait for Grand Gang Leader Zhang to introduce them. All right, everyone. Seeing that everyone was here, Zhang Xiaohu waved his hand and said, after my Misty School conquered ethereal heights, I often come to this conference hall. I've also dealt with a lot of the sect's affairs. However, this conference hall has never been as lively as it is today. I've also never been as happy as I am today. Because from today onwards, this conference hall will be the real place for my Misty School to discuss matters. My Misty School's disciples' words will have real weight here. Li Jian, one high, and the others listened and frowned. However, looking at Ming Qing and Gao Kunheng's reactions, they were even more puzzled. Not only did the two not lower their heads, but they also raised their heads slightly. They narrowed their eyes and looked at Zhang Xiaohu. When they heard something, they even nodded slightly. It seemed that they were the same as when one high, Misty School's direct disciples. This is really strange. When one high and Lu Yuiming exchanged glances, they were both extremely puzzled. In the conference hall, Zhang Xiaohu's voice was still echoing. I'm indebted to all the Misty School's elders and teachers for not abandoning me and pushing me to be the Grand Gang Leader of the Misty School. I'm also indebted to all the Misty School's martial uncles, senior brothers, and senior sisters of the Misty School to listen to my orders. I'll definitely not disappoint everyone. I'll work hard and do my best to run our Misty School well. I'll let all the seniors of the Misty School in the Netherworld rest in peace. Well said, Grand Gang Leader Zhang. Ming Qing was the first to applaud. Everyone was stunned and thought to themselves, what does this have to do with you? but their hands were also clapping with all their might. After everyone's applause died down, Zhang Xiaohu continued, "Also, I have a few other happy events to announce. First, the Misty School branch brothers that Elder who took away will be able to return to ethereal heights in 10 days. My Misty School brothers will be able to reunite, and my Misty School strength will be able to rise to another level." Great, everyone was happy to hear that. Zhang Xiaohu gestured with his hands and continued. The second happy event is that the disciples of the Righteous Alliance will be officially integrated into my Misty School from today onwards. As he spoke, he waved his hand. The two people beside Ming Qing stood up and bowed to everyone. I'm Wang Luan and Lu Bin. Greetings to everyone. Ah? Only then did everyone understand that the people sitting beside Ming Qing were actually the captured disciples of the Righteous Alliance. After the battle at Ethereal Peak, everyone already knew the strength of the disciples of the Righteous Alliance. They were not much inferior to the disciples of Misty School. On that day, because Zhang Xiaohua had killed the Righteous Alliance's class leader Fuguei and the four great reverends, the disciples of the Righteous Alliance were scared silly. Hence, thousands of elites had put down their weapons without fighting. These elite disciples were sent by the Righteous Alliance to guard Ethereal Peak. They were the elites of the Righteous Alliance. With the addition of these captured disciples, it would definitely make the Misty School even more powerful. After Wang Luan and Lu Bin bowed, they sat down. They did not mind the coldness of the people of Misty School. When the two of them sat down, the disciples of Misty School came to their senses. They clapped and cheered. Then, Zhang Xiaohua smiled and said, "Third, naturally, the disciples of the incense cult will be integrated into my Misty School. It doesn't matter if this is a cliché or an old bottle of wine. In short, from now on, these disciples will be my Misty School's disciples." Ming Qing and Gao Kunheng stood up and bowed to everyone. I'm Ming Qing and Gao Kunheng. Greetings to everyone. Everyone present did not understand the situation. They could understand the disciples of the Righteous Alliance surrendering, but what about the incense cult? Were they originally Misty School's disciples? Why did they emphasize it again? The disciples of Misty School had a natural resistance to the disciples of the incense cult. Not to mention cheering, they did not even applaud. Zhang Xiaohu frowned and said, I naturally know about the past. However, from now on, the disciples led by Deputy Leader Ming and Deputy Leader Gao are real disciples of my Misty School. They are no longer disciples of the incense cult. Do you all understand? Hearing this, Li Jin immediately clapped and said with a smile, Leader Zhang is a man of great talent. He actually brought the original disciples of the incense cult and the Righteous Alliance into my Misty School. This is really a great event for my Misty School. Good, everyone heard this and quickly clapped. Zhang Xiaohu smiled and said, From now on, there are no more disciples of the incense cult or the Righteous Alliance in Ethereal Heights. They are all disciples of my Misty School. If there is any filthy matter, or if you mention the past, I will not tolerate it. I will punish all of you severely. Yes, we will follow leader's orders. Everyone said in unison. Well, then I have finished talking about the good news. Next, I will announce a few more tasks. Zhang Xiaohua looked around at everyone and said with a smile, The first thing is that my Ethereal Heights has so many new disciples. In the future, there will be disciples brought by Elder Hu. Our Ethereal Heights does not have enough rooms. The original disciples of the incense cult can't always occupy the pharmacy hall. Therefore, I need to find someone who can build a house for my Ethereal Heights. Boom. Everyone laughed. This laughter was not ridicule, but laughter from the bottom of their hearts. Li Jin also could not hide his smile and said loudly, Leader Zhang, this kind of thing is done by the Divine Engineering Hall. The Divine Engineering Hall has a disciple in charge of this kind of thing. Then he turned his head and said, Which disciple is it? Hurry up and explain to Leader Zhang. Before he finished speaking, a short, fat, and honest disciple came out from behind and bowed. Disciple Lu Wangquan greets Leader Zhang. Disciple is in charge of this kind of thing in the Divine Engineering Hall. Good. Zhang Xiaohu nodded and said, Please wait a moment. Then he raised his head and said, Which disciple is in charge of external affairs like the Lotus Escort Agency? A disciple who looked a little shrewd came out from the crowd and bowed. Disciple Wan Feng is in charge of this kind of thing in the Divine Engineering Hall? Well, good. Zhang Xiaohu nodded and said loudly, I plan to take out external affairs and internal affairs from the Divine Engineering Hall and set up another external affairs hall to be in charge of these two kinds of things. Lu Wangquan and Wan Feng will be the deputy hall masters. What does everyone think? Lu Wangquan and Wan Feng were pleasantly surprised. Then they looked around nervously, afraid that someone would object. Seeing this, Li Jin said, Leader Zhang, Lu Wangquan and Wan Feng will be the deputy hall masters. Then, who will be the hall master? Zhang Xiaohu smiled and said, I haven't thought it through yet. If Elder Li has someone to recommend, that would be the best. Li Jin didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This is the authority of the leader. It's better if I don't say too much. Hee, that's good too. Then we'll wait for Elder Hu to come back and let him recommend someone. Zhang Xiaohu said with a smile. Li Jin was stunned. Then he understood and nodded slightly. Seeing Li Jin nod, Zhang Xiaohu also smiled and nodded. Well, since no one objects, I will appoint Lu Wangquan and Wan Feng as the deputy hall masters of the Misty School's External Affairs Hall. Then he said to Lu Wangquan, Hall Master Lu Fu, you have to lead the disciples under you and build the houses well. Otherwise, everyone will make things difficult for you. Please rest assured, Leader Zhang. This subordinate will definitely not disappoint Leader Zhang and let our Misty School's disciples live in the best houses. Lu Wangquan was almost moved to tears. Please vote monthly, please vote recommendation, please bookmark, please tip, thank you. To be continued. -4. Chapter 11-12. That's great. Zhang Xiaohu clapped his hands and said, Everyone will do their best for our Misty School. Vice Leader Lu, please don't disappoint us. Then he turned to Wan Feng and said, Lotus Flower Escort Agency and the other Misty School's external forces also need to be integrated. Otherwise, our Misty School's disciples won't have any extra food at home. We can't possibly practice martial arts on an empty stomach, right? Vice Leader Wan's responsibility is also very heavy. If you have any needs, feel free to ask me. I will do my best to cooperate with you. Wan Feng didn't expect Zhang Xiaohu to place such importance on him. He was grateful and said, Your subordinate's life belongs to Grand Faction Leader. Since Grand Faction Leader is so fond of me, your subordinate will do his best to let our Misty School's disciples have nothing to worry about. Haha, very good. Zhang Xiaohu waved his hand and asked Lu Wangquan and Wan Feng to sit down. Then he smiled and said, Now that our Misty School's disciples have increased greatly, the original halls can no longer accommodate so many disciples. Moreover, it's inconvenient to manage them. Therefore, I suggest that we set up a martial arts lecture hall and a martial arts discussion hall. Thousands of disciples from the original incense cult will be managed in these two halls. The two vice leaders, Ming Qing and Gao Kunheng, will be the hall masters of these two halls. What do you think? For a moment, the meeting hall was silent. The disciples of the Misty School didn't speak. After a while, Li Jin smiled and said, Grand Faction Leader Zhang's suggestion is very appropriate. The original incense cult disciples are not our Misty School disciples. It's inevitable that there will be conflicts if we manage them together. If we can set up one hall, we can take advantage of the situation and develop harmoniously. This old man agrees. Everyone understood Li Jin's words. The disciples of the incense cult were very powerful. If they didn't manage them individually, it was hard to guarantee that something like Wang Dong wouldn't happen again. Letting Ming Qing and Gao Kunheng manage them was a good idea. Besides, the disciples of the incense cult only listened to Ming Qing and Gao Kunheng. Zhang Xiaohu's suggestion was reasonable, but could Ming Qing and Gao Kunheng do it? However, when Li Jin finished speaking, Zhang Xiaohu raised his hand and said, Vice Gang Leader Ming, Vice Gang Leader Gao, what do you think? Ming Qing and Gao Kunheng's words made all the Misty School disciples' jaws drop to the ground. Yes, Gang Leader. We will remember Gang Leader's teachings. We will do our best for the Misty School until the day we die. Seeing everyone's shocked faces, Zhang Xiaohu smiled faintly. I know that you guys are handsome for a while in the Fragrant Cult, but the Fragrant Cult is all about women. My Misty School is different. If you guys contribute to my misty school will definitely not mistreat you. We understand. We will not let you down. Ming Qing and Gao Kunheng stood up and cupped their hands in salute. Oh, so that's how it is. Li Jian and the others suddenly understood. No matter how outstanding Ming Qing and Gao Kunheng were, there was no way they could stand out in the fragrant cult. However, the Misty School was also an inheritance of the way of the immortals. It would definitely be very attractive to them. You guys sit down. Zhang Xiaohu waved his hand and said, Next. I'm sure everyone knows that I will put the original disciples of the Righteous Alliance into 2 halls. These 2 halls will be called the Xinwu Hall and the Hongwu Hall. The original disciples of the Righteous Alliance, Wang Luan and Lu Bin, will be the respective hall masters. What do you guys think? The disciples of the Righteous Alliance were different from the disciples of the Fragrant Cult. Although these disciples were strong in battle and would be a great help to the Misty School, they were still disciples of the Righteous Alliance. Not to mention whether they were willing or not, even the leader of the Righteous Alliance, Zhang San, might not be able to do the same. This is a hot potato. Everyone had the same thought. Sect leader Zhang, this matter. I'm afraid it's not appropriate. Can you reconsider? Lu Yueming stood up and said, I've thought about what Master Lu said. I have my own way of dealing with it. Please don't worry. Zhang Xiaohu said with a smile. Then all right. The disciples of the Righteous Alliance are all capable. If they really become disciples of the Misty School, I'll be happy. Lu Yueming sat down helplessly. Do you guys have any objections? Zhang Xiaohu asked Wang Luan and Lu Bin as usual. How could the 2 of them have any objections? They bowed and said, The ethereal sect is the orthodox sect of the immortal Tao. We were fortunate that sect Master Zhang didn't abandon us and accepted us into the ethereal sect. This is what we have been longing for many years. Now that sect Master Zhang has passed it on to everyone, we can only thank sect Master Zhang for entrusting us with this task. We will do our best to manage our disciples well. Very good. Zhang Xiaohu gestured for the 2 to sit down and said, The new 4 halls are named after martial arts. They will be the sharpest martial arts of the Misty School. I hope that the disciples of the 4 halls will work hard and make the name of the Misty School known in the martial arts world. We will not disappoint sect leader Zhang. The 2 deputy leaders and 2 hall leaders stood up together. The disciples of the Misty School were enlightened. Just like Ming Jing, they knew why Zhang Xiaohu made such arrangements. They had already given Zhang Xiaohu countless thumbs up in their hearts. The former disciples of the Incense Cult and the Righteous Alliance who had nothing to do with them, using them as fighters. To think that sect leader Zhang could think of such a thing. To think that the 4 deputy leaders and hall leaders would agree to it. But was that the truth? Haha. Zhang Xiaohu laughed and clapped his hands. Today will be a milestone in the history of the Misty School. Everyone will be proud of this moment after witnessing it. Sect leader Zhang is wise. The disciples of the Misty School were in an uproar. If the disciples of the Martial Arts Lecture Hall, Martial Arts Symposium Hall, Martial Arts Hall, and Martial Arts Hall were included, the strength of the Misty School was already stronger than the Misty School under O Peng. How could they not be happy? After the commotion died down, Zhang Xiaohua stood up again and said, Everyone, please calm down. I have not finished speaking. There's more? The crowd immediately quieted down. Zhang Xiaohu narrowed his eyes and looked around at the crowd. The Law Enforcement Hall is the hall in the Misty School that enforces the sect's rules. It is extremely important. Not only does it have to quote the classics, it also has to be fair in its rewards and punishments. Du Feng, as the deputy hall leader of the Law Enforcement Hall, is not enough to deter the entire Misty School. Therefore, I nominate Martial Uncle Lu Yueming, who has always hated evil, to be the deputy leader of the Misty School and also the head of the Law Enforcement Hall. What do you think? Everyone clapped and nodded. Lu Yueming was O Peng's direct disciple and had a great reputation in the sect. Back then, he was second only to Zhang Chengyue. Of course, he would be the deputy leader of the Misty School. However, while Aunt Qin and the others were happy, they couldn't help but worry. They looked hesitant and didn't know if they should voice their thoughts. Zhang Xiaohu knew what Aunt Qin was thinking. He waved his hand and said, Hall leader Qin, do you have something you want to say? This is the meeting hall of the Misty School. It is the place to discuss sect matters. I am still young and inexperienced. If Hall Leader Qin has any advice that can help me make up for my shortcomings, I will be happy. Aunt Qin hesitated. She looked at Lu Yueming and said embarrassedly, "This subordinate does have some thoughts." "Of course, Lu. Deputy Leader Lu's abilities are outstanding. This heavy responsibility should be used to the best of one's ability." This subordinate has no intention of objecting. However, Deputy Leader Lu's martial arts are inferior. If he is taken advantage of by outsiders, wouldn't Big Leader Zhang harm Deputy Leader Lu? Hee. Lu Yueming looked at Zhang Xiaohu when he heard this. Zhang Xiaohu nodded slightly. Lu Yueming threw away the crutch in his hand. His body floated up and made a turn in the air. Then, he circled around and slowly climbed up. When he reached the roof of the assembly hall, he slid a few feet to the side. Then, like an eagle, he flew down. Ethereal steps. Aunt Qin was dumbfounded. She covered her mouth with her hand and exclaimed, "Deputy Leader Lu recovered his internal strength?" Hee. Lu Yueming smiled but didn't answer. After a while, Aunt Qin's face was filled with joy. She cupped her hands and said, "Big Leader Zhang, this subordinate has no other questions." Very good." Zhang Xiaohu nodded and said, "Actually, with Hall Leader Qin's experience and ability, you can also be the deputy leader." However, Aunt Qin was shocked. She quickly stood up and bowed. "Big Leader Zhang, this subordinate is too much. This subordinate is just a woman. In order to accompany Hall Master Yang on Shirshin Peak, I had no choice but to become the Deputy Hall Master of the Misty Hall. Big Sect Master must also know about the tradition of the incense cult, so this subordinate had to bite the bullet. Now that I'm back at Misty School, although this subordinate is still the hall leader of Mingsue Hall, this subordinate feels at ease and feels very good. If this subordinate really becomes the deputy leader, this subordinate still feels very uncomfortable." Ha ha ha. The older disciples of Misty School all laughed. Aunt Qin was right. She was indeed nothing in Misty School. The reason why she was made the hall leader of Mingsue Hall was mainly because she was a woman. It was more convenient for her to manage Mingsue Hall. If she was really given the deputy leader position, Zhang Xiaohu dared to give it to her, but she really didn't dare to take it. Haha. Zhang Xiaohu gestured for her to sit down. "Rest assured, Hall Leader Qin. In the future, there will be plenty of positions in Misty School. You can take your time and see." The disciples of Misty School felt a chill in their hearts, but they quickly became happy. They had received Zhang Xiaohu's grace and secretly placed Zhang Xiaohu in a very high position in their hearts. Now that they saw that Zhang Xiaohu wanted to make Misty School bigger, they had to support him unconditionally, both publicly and privately. "All right, Deputy Leader Lu, you don't have any objections, right?" Zhang Xiaohu looked at Lu Yueming with a smile. Lu Yueming hadn't sat down. When he heard this, he bowed and saluted, as Big Leader Zhang commands. This subordinate will do his best to assist Big Leader Zhang. "Deputy Leader Lu, please take a seat." After Zhang Xiaohua finished speaking, she looked at Xueqing and said, "Marshal Uncle Xue, Kitty Hawk Hall is the foundation of our Misty School. All the young disciples have to be nurtured there. It is of utmost importance. Would you like to be the hall leader of Kitty Hawk Hall?" This Xueqing was a little hesitant. He glanced at Wen Wenhai. Wen Wenhai nodded slightly. Thus, Xueqing said softly, "This subordinate doesn't like trivial matters. But, if Big Leader Zhang doesn't have a suitable candidate, this subordinate is willing to take on this heavy responsibility." "Good." Zhang Xiaohu smiled and said, "Marshal Uncle Xue, if you take on the role of Kitty Hawk Hall leader, you can choose the former elite disciples of Kitty Hawk Hall and recommend them to me. I will appoint them as deputy hall leaders of Kitty Hawk Hall. Also, please cast a monthly vote, please cast a recommendation vote, please collect it, please tip it. Thank you. If you like this work, you are welcome to cast a recommendation vote or monthly vote at Chidian. Com. -4. Chapter 11:13. When Xueqing's ears perked up to hear Zhang Xiaohu say and something, Zhang Xiaohu stopped abruptly and waved his hand. "Since Hall Master Xue has no objections, please take a seat." From today onwards, you will be in charge of Kitty Hawk Hall's affairs. Quickly rebuild Kitty Hawk Hall. The inheritance of Misty School's orthodoxy will fall on their heads. Orthodoxy? Inheritance? Others might not have felt anything when they heard it, but Li Jin was stunned. Zhang Xiaohu was only Wen Wenhai's disciple, and his master was martial arts. Moreover, Wen Wenhai himself was not the chief disciple of Misty School. He only knew that Misty School was an immortal inheritance, but he was completely clueless as to how it was passed down. Peng and Zhang Chengyue died in a hurry and did not leave anything behind. Misty School's martial arts continued, but immortality, fundamentally speaking, it was already broken. Maybe he just said it casually. Li Jin could only think of it this way. After all, even he, Peng's second senior, did not know what the immortal inheritance of Misty School was, so how could Zhang Xiaohu, a disciple who joined Misty School halfway, know? But suddenly, Li Jin shuddered as he thought of the senior who Zhang Xiaohu, Du Feng, and Ding Chao had mentioned that had a deep relationship with Misty School. Could it be? But just as this thought arose, he extinguished it. Sigh, am I getting old and muddle-headed? Am I thinking too much in my hopes of Misty School's rise? Misty School's immortal path has not been passed down for who knows how many years. Even Peng did not get it, so how could an outsider know? Also, Zhang Xiaohu did not even see his face. Sigh. Li Jin sighed for no reason. Who knew what he was sighing about? Then, Zhang Xiaohu's gaze turned to Wen Wenhai. This was his master who had taught him martial arts. Why did his martial uncles all have positions while his master had no position? Wen Wenhai also secretly took a deep breath. As expected, Zhang Xiaohu said in a deep voice, Master, the Divine Mechanics Hall is the most important hall of our Misty School. I don't feel comfortable leaving it to others. Master, you're a person of virtue and prestige. How about I leave the Divine Mechanics Hall to you? Wen Wenhai was a little disappointed. He wanted to nod, but Zhang Xiaohu smiled and said, Of course, the position of Hall Master of the Divine Arms Hall is also yours, Master. You shouldn't shirk the responsibility of being the vice-sect leader of the Misty School. Wen Wenhai was overjoyed, but he said, You little brat. Although Master is old, I'm not much older than you. How can I casually call you senior? Hee Master. Don't blame me. Zhang Xiaohu said, This is an honorific. Forget it. I won't bicker with you. Now that you're the great sect leader of the Misty School, how can I not listen to your orders? Thank you, Master. Zhang Xiaohu said seriously, Then I'll have to trouble Master to worry about me from now on. I'll obey great sect leader's orders. Wen Wenhai also said seriously, Please take a seat. Vice sect leader 1. Zhang Xiaohu looked around and said, Is Hall Master Bai Dong of the Pharmacy Hall present? An old man with white hair and a white beard, but an extremely hale and hearty expression, stood up from his seat and bowed. Your subordinate is here. Hall Master Bai, the pharmacy hall needs to be rebuilt. Naturally, the position of Hall Master is yours, so I won't assign anyone else. I just want to recommend He Tianshu of the pharmacy hall to be the Vice Hall Master. Is that possible? Bai Dong was the Hall Master of the pharmacy hall. His martial arts weren't particularly high, so he wasn't killed by the Righteous Alliance during the battle at the Misty Peak. His Dantian was only destroyed, and he was spared. Now that his martial arts had recovered and the pharmacy hall was rebuilt, Bai Dong naturally needed to be the hall master. When he heard that Zhang Xiaohu was only recommending a vice hall master and a disciple of the pharmacy hall, how could he refuse? He cupped his hands and said, This subordinate is old and weak, but the pharmacy hall is my heart and blood, so I can't bear to give it up. He Tianshu, recommended by great sect leader, is in his prime and full of energy. He can learn from me and make up for my shortcomings. This subordinate will do my best to rebuild the pharmacy hall and cultivate Vice Hall Master he well. I won't let great sect leader down. Very good. Zhang Xiaohu invited Hall Master Bai to sit down and said to Li Jin, Martial Ancestor Li, I also want to build another Elder's Courtyard. I invite Martial Ancestor Li, Martial Ancestor Li, Martial Ancestor Li, Martial Ancestor Li, and other highly respected elders to contribute to the Elder's Courtyard. Li Jin stood up and said with a smile, That's good. Old steeds still have ambitions. To be able to enter the elder's courtyard is my wish and also my honor. How dare I refuse? I'm in. I'm in. Lu Qingyang also stood up and shouted. Ha ha ha. Zhang Xiaohu looked up to the sky and laughed. Everyone, the 11 halls of the Misty Peak have been decided. I'm sure everyone has found their positions. I hope that everyone can work together and build the Misty School's supreme glory. Mighty. It seemed that from that day onwards, the disciples of the Misty School liked to shout like this. Today, it happened again. The disciples outside the conference hall didn't understand. But when they heard the shouts in the conference hall, they knew that there was a new happy occasion. They stood outside and shouted as well. When the messenger disciple passed the news out of the conference hall, the disciples of the Misty School were even more delighted. After Mighty, they naturally added Great Sect Leader Zhang. For a moment, Great Sect Leader Zhang is mighty resounded throughout the Misty Peak. Even Zhang Kai and Guasufei and the Huan, Shi Villa heard it and couldn't close their mouths for a moment. Only Zhang Xiaolong heard it and shrugged his shoulders. His face was filled with loneliness. Lu Qian saw this and knew what her Lang Jun was thinking. She came over with Byron and said with a smile, "Didn't Xiaohua say it before? Everyone has their own path. Everyone has their own mission in life. Xiaohu's mission is to revitalize the Misty School. Xiaohua's mission is to establish the Beidou School. Then, what's Xiaolong's mission? It's to live a good life with Lu Qian and raise the famous Zhang Byron." Zhang Xiaolong said with a smile. "Yes, mother's and father's mission is to raise you 3 brothers. However, I feel that being able to meet you, take good care of you, and live a happy life with you is my life's mission." Zhang Xiaolong held Lu Qian's hand and said softly. In the pill refining room in the Misty Palace, 7 majestic 8 trigrams purple gold furnaces were melting. Zhang Xiaohua sat cross-legged and couldn't hear the cheers of the Misty School disciples outside. At this time, Zhang Xiaohua wasn't comprehending the heavenly Tao, nor was he practicing the Carefree Heart Sutra. Instead, he frowned slightly and carefully recalled some of the truths that he saw in the river of karma. Yes, the way of karma was a side of the heavenly Tao. How could Zhang Xiaohua come into contact with karma at the qi refinement stage and even wade into the river of karma? With Zhang Xiaohua's current cultivation, how could he understand the taste of it? All he could think about was what he saw in the river of karma with his naked eye. Of course, the most profound was the scene in the water bubble related to his dream's mother, Lady Aya. Although the scene in the water bubble was very short, it was enough to leave a deep impression on Zhang Xiaohua. This was because on Zhang Xiaohua's journey to find out about his dream's background, Lady Aya was described as kind and capable. This also caused Zhang Xiaohua's impression of Lady Aya to be a mixture of a mother and a sister-in-law. In short, she was kind with a hint of shrewdness. But, in the water bubble, Lady Aya was holding a dagger and killing an old monk. The dagger was stabbed into the old monk's abdomen. Blood splattered everywhere and sprayed on Lady Aya's body and Lady Aya's face. This scene was frozen. Lady Aya's face was also ferocious. Zhang Xiaohua could even see the bloodthirsty expression in Lady Aya's eyes, that cruel red light. "Sigh, Lady Aya, what kind of story does she have?" Zhang Xiaohua sighed. There is a saying in the Buddhist scriptures, "Lay down the butcher's knife and become a Buddha." No matter what kind of past Lady Aya had, or how violent she was in the past, her last years were peaceful and peaceful. Perhaps she also became a Buddha. But if Ming knew that her mother had such a hurtful past, what would she think in her heart? "Ming, are you in a foreign land? Okay?" Unconsciously, Zhang Xiaohua missed his dream in the Tenryu sect again. But he forgot that the Tenryu sect was Ming's home, and not the foreign land that Zhang Xiaohua thought. Thinking about how he and Ming were separated more often, Zhang Xiaohua could not help but feel sad. He had just found Ming at Lingxiang Peak when he was sent to Huansu. After returning from Huansu, he finally got the chance to go out with Ming. But in just a few months, they were separated again. But it seemed that only by separation could he appreciate the sweetness of reunion. It seemed that only by continuous separation could he deeply appreciate the unforgettable yearning and love of each other. After thinking about it for a long time, Zhang Xiaohua's heart was filled with bitterness. He shook his head slightly. At his age, He could only understand this bitterness. How could he understand the meaning behind it? Life was full of joys and sorrows. If he did not taste them one by one, how could his life be complete? Shaking his head, Zhang Xiaohua released his divine sense and carefully looked at the elixir in the cauldron. Then, he took out venerable fiery dragon's jade bamboo slips from his money bag and looked through them carefully. Venerable fiery dragon's orthodoxy was very complicated. There were all kinds of strange techniques, formations, and even elixir recipes, but none of them were particularly profound. Furthermore, Zhang Xiaohua had already discovered that venerable fiery dragon's techniques were all about cultivating the lower dantian. None of the techniques involved the middle dantian. Thinking about the techniques that he had seen in the Misty School's Hall of Legacy, it seemed that they were all about cultivating the lower dantian. Could it be that cultivating the lower dantian is not unique to martial arts? Could it be that the Immortal Tao seniors changed it based on the techniques of the Immortal Tao? But why does the Carefree Heart Sutra cultivate the middle dantian? Could it be that the Carefree Heart Sutra was not passed down by Wan Wuxin and the other Immortal Tao seniors? Zhang Xiaohua thought to himself and rolled his eyes. Senior Huan said that the mystic realm existed before they came. The Carefree Heart Sutra of the Misty School came from the mystic realm. It might really be a technique from before the Immortal Tao. But then again, although there are different techniques, they all seem to cultivate the meridians. And there are only so many meridians in a person's body. At the end of cultivation, wouldn't it be a different method to achieve the same result? -4. Chapter 11:14. Another 10 days passed. Zhang Xiaohu was sitting in the meeting hall with a teacup in his hand, gently blowing the steam off the teacup. His eyes were squinted as he stared at the ground, unconsciously sending the tea into his mouth. In the meeting hall, Zhang Xiaohu expanded the Misty School into 11 halls. When the Misty School's disciples saw that the Misty School's strength had increased greatly, their hearts were filled with hope. While working hard on their cultivation, they also increased their vigilance, preparing to welcome the Righteous Alliance's attack. However, according to the Divine Machine Hall's report, the Righteous Alliance's Righteous Peak was as calm as usual, as if the Misty School's counterattack had never happened. What's going on? Zhang Xiaohu was bewildered. Could it be that they're afraid of the incense cult? But I heard that the Righteous Alliance had also spoken harshly at the incense cult's martial arts assembly. The incense cult's Nun Jing had also cleanly distanced herself from the karma. The Misty School is the Misty School. It has nothing to do with the incense cult. The Righteous Alliance wouldn't be so afraid of Nun Jingyi's face. Could it be that they're afraid of the immortal expert that Xiaohua is impersonating? Zhang Xiaohu's guesses grew. But even our Misty School's ordinary disciples know that the immortal expert did not act because of the enmity between the Righteous Alliance and the Misty School. She killed Ban Fugue in anger because of some azure flame token. This news must have already spread to the Righteous Alliance. Moreover, the immortal expert would not participate in the battle of martial arts. The Righteous Alliance also did not know that the immortal expert was Xiaohua. Why would they bide their time? Hurt. It's so troublesome. Zhang Xiaohu rubbed his head. Suddenly, a voice rang out from behind Zhang Xiaohu. What are you thinking about? Zhang Xiaohu shuddered, and the teacup in his hand almost fell to the ground. Before he even turned around, he scolded. You have no respect for your elders. Xiaohua, don't you know that you can scare someone to death? Why do you always appear behind me like a ghost? Zhang Xiaohua walked over from behind with an aggrieved look on his face. He sat on a chair and supported his head with his fist. He stared blankly at the ceiling and murmured, "Sigh, what a bitter life." It wasn't easy to refine the soul-intimidating pill. I wanted to give someone a surprise, but I didn't expect my face to stick to someone's butt. Sigh, forget it. If I had known earlier, I would have gone back and teased Byron. What? When Zhang Xiaohu heard this, he threw down his teacup and jumped over. Before he could get close, Zhang Xiaohua reached out and grabbed his wrist. She scolded, "Don't you know that you can scare people to death? Don't be so inconsiderate and sit there obediently." Then Zhang Xiaohua raised his eyebrows again, as if he had discovered something. However, after being surprised, he didn't say anything. Hehe, Xiaohua, you're my biological brother. You've been peeing on my head since you were young. Let me tell you, why are you like this? When we were young, I also spanked your butt a lot, right? There's no reason. Why are you angry? Zhang Xiaohu comforted. Second brother is not joking with you, right? You also know that it's really boring for second brother to sit in this position. I have to keep a straight face every day to maintain the dignity of the big faction leader. Once I relax a little, people might gossip about me. Sigh, they always compare me with big faction leader O. How deep do you think big faction leader O's foundation is? How can I dare to compare myself with him? Zhang Xiaohua was just teasing Zhang Xiaohu. When she heard Zhang Xiaohu's complaints, she abandoned her posture and laughed. Second brother is also an almighty person. Just now I saw that this misty school was actually divided into 11 halls by you. You're much stronger than me. Hehe, as the ancients said, nobility, generals, ministers, nobles, generals, and ministers are all equal. With little brother supporting you, are you afraid that the whole Jianghu won't be able to hold your hand? The whole Jianghu? Hold my hand? Zhang Xiaohu smiled bitterly. Even the disciples of Xiangism and the Righteous Alliance can't handle it. How can you talk about the whole Jianghu? Fine, I knew it. Zhang Xiaohua wasn't in a good mood. She pointed to the secret room and said, "There's a box in the secret room. Inside are 21 jade bottles. Each bottle contains 81 soul-scaring pills. There's a total of 1,701 pills. It should be enough for a while." So many? So fast? Zhang Xiaohu was stunned and blurted out, "Haha, of course. I didn't expect it either. However, this soul-scaring pill can't be compared to the meridian-soothing pill. It doesn't test the level of alchemy. It only cares about the rarity of the herbs. Also, I got a few of your Misty School's pill furnaces. My pill furnace is even better. I can refine a furnace in a few days. It's an unexpected surprise." Zhang Xiaohu clapped his hands and said, "Xiangism has more than 2,000 disciples, and the Righteous Alliance has nearly 5,000 disciples. I estimate that you'll be able to refine it 4 more times." "Oh my, second brother. So many people." Zhang Xiaohua smiled bitterly. "How many herbs would I have to waste? No wonder people from the path of immortality don't refine these messy things. It's really meaningless." Zhang Xiaohu smiled bitterly. "Xiaohua, you're not in the situation. You don't know how difficult it is. If these nearly 8,000 people all listen to me, don't you think it'll be very easy for me to be the sect leader?" "Yes. Others may not listen, but I'll listen. However, second brother, you have to confirm the specific number of people. I can't give you even 1 more pill." Zhang Xiaohua said seriously. "Yes." Zhang Xiaohu thought for a moment and nodded. "How about this? Other than the soul-scaring pills that these people are using, how about you give me 10 more? Zhang Xiaohua said without hesitation. "No problem. However, you'll have to take the soul-scaring pill this time. I don't have the patience for nearly 2,000 people. I might as well go and refine some more." Zhang Xiaohu said decisively, "Okay. Mingqing and Gao Kunheng are already very obedient. I'll take care of these things for them." Then, he smiled and said, "The path of immortality is really magical. These 2 people don't look like they've taken the soul-scaring pill at all. Other than obeying my words and treating me as the sect leader, everything else is exactly the same as before." Zhang Xiaohua smiled bitterly. Of course, he knew better than Zhang Xiaohu what the soul-scaring pill was. He didn't want Zhang Xiaohu to do anything outrageous with it. So, before refining it, he comprehended the things in the jade slip and the poison scripture for a long time. He even put in a lot of thought when refining it. This soul-scaring pill, other than making the person who took it recognize Zhang Xiaohu as the sect leader, had nothing to do with life and death. Even if Zhang Xiaohu ordered Mingqing to die, Mingqing might not listen. Of course, even if Zhang Xiaohu let the number 1 beauty in the pugilistic world take the soul-scaring pill, that beauty would only recognize Zhang Xiaohu as the sect leader. She wouldn't have any thoughts of giving herself to him. Yes, didn't I say before that Zhang Xiaohua's products are all the best? Do I need you to praise me? Zhang Xiaohua smiled and said, "Second brother, come closer. I'll tell you how to use the soul-scaring pill. Okay, Zhang Xiaohu said and moved his ear closer. But after he finished listening, a strange expression appeared on his face. He said in a flustered and exasperated manner, Xiaohua, you can't play me like this. Can you? Change it to something else? Zhang Xiaohua spread out his hands and shrugged. He said helplessly, there's no other way, second brother. Since it's already like this, I'll think of another way next time. But isn't this a little too mushy? Zhang Xiaohu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It's nothing. Zhang Xiaohua waved his hand and made a hand gesture. He disappeared into the ground and left his voice behind. Go on with your work. I won't disturb you. I'm going to see father and mother. Don't go. Zhang Xiaohu stretched out his hand. But how could he stop her? Sigh, this person. Zhang Xiaohu said and shouted. Disciples outside, summon Deputy Faction Leader Ming and Deputy Faction Leader Gao to my meeting hall. He got up and went to the secret room. Indeed, there was a big box in the corridor. He didn't know where Zhang Xiaohua got it from, but when he opened it, there were 21 jade bottles neatly arranged inside. Zhang Xiaohu reached out and took a few bottles. The rest were placed in the box and hidden in a hidden place. Not long after, Ming Qing and Gao Kunhing arrived. Zhang Xiaohu didn't explain and brought them to the martial arts lecture hall. At this time, the martial arts lecture hall was gradually taking shape. It had a bright courtyard, elegant rooms, and diligent disciples. It was in full swing. Zhang Xiaohu whispered a few words in their ears. Although they were extremely surprised, they still nodded and left. Then, the disciples of the martial arts lecture hall divided into several groups and entered Zhang Xiaohu's room one by one. They called it heart to heart. When the first disciple entered the room, his acupoints were immediately sealed by Zhang Xiaohu. He poured out a soul-frightening pill from the jade bottle and stuffed it into the disciple's mouth. After a while, when the pill was about to take effect, Zhang Xiaohu unsealed the disciple's acupoints. The disciple did the same as Zhang Xiaohua, closing his eyes. But Zhang Xiaohu put his mouth near the disciple's ear. He hesitated and sighed, whispering, I love Chen Chen. Hearing this, the disciple immediately opened his eyes. Then his eyeballs turned nimbly and turned to look at Zhang Xiaohu. He cupped his hands and said, Greetings, faction leader Zhang. Zhang Xiaohu nodded and waved his hand. He said, You can leave. Let the next disciple in. Yes. The disciple was very obedient and went out at once. Then it was the next disciple. At this time, Zhang Xiaohu had glimpsed the way of immortality. With the support of Zhang Xiaohua's primordial stone, there was genuine qi in his meridians. The disciples of the incense school were caught off guard and were all tricked by Zhang Xiaohu. However, no one heard Zhang Xiaohu say, I love Chinchun. Zhang Xiaohu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. However, there were more than 1,000 elixirs. How could they take them one by one in a short time? After seeing Zhang Xiaohu's heart-to-heart talk, the disciples who came out were all in high spirits as if they had been injected with chicken blood. The other disciples who didn't have a heart-to-heart talk all shouted that they also wanted to have a heart-to-heart talk today. Zhang Xiaohu said helplessly, Disciples, you are all disciples of the Misty School. I won't favor one and discriminate against the other. Just wait. I'll have a heart-to-heart talk with you tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. But he snickered in his heart. I can't do it today. I really have to tell Chin Chin this. Please vote for me. Please vote for me. Please collect me. Please tip me. Thank you. -4. Chapter 11:15. Another 10 days passed, and Zhang Xiaohu was still in the meeting hall. He was sitting on a chair listlessly. Normally, the soul scare pill refined by Zhang Xiaohua was extremely useful. Zhang Xiaohu had already controlled more than 2,000 people of the fragrance cult and thousands of important disciples of the Decent Alliance called Zhang Xiaohu Grand Faction Leader. Zhang Xiaohu should be very happy and excited. But it was Zhang Xiaohua's strange password that tortured Zhang Xiaohu like this. Yes, the password of the earliest batch was, I love Chinchun. Zhang Xiaohu said it 1701 times in the ears of strangers. The password of the second batch was changed to, I love Chang'e. And Zhang Xiaohu said it 1701 times in the ears of another batch of strangers. Alas, I don't know. What will he change it to in the next batch? Zhang Xiaohu was secretly distressed. However, he had to shout it. If he didn't shout it, when the disciples' acupoints were unsealed, he would definitely be exposed. Moreover, Zhang Xiaohu saw it with his own eyes. When testing the soul scare pill, Zhang Xiaohua did murmur something in Wang Luan's ears. What a bitter life. Zhang Xiaohu patted his forehead. He really didn't know what to do with his younger brother. At this time, a disciple suddenly came forward to report, Grand Faction Leader Zhang, there are 2 women outside the villa. 2 women? Zhang Xiaohu heard it and felt a headache. His mind was full of, I love Qinshan, and I love Chang'e. He couldn't help but feel angry. He waved his hand and said, I don't want to see them. Yes, Grand Faction Leader's order. The disciple heard it and immediately turned around. Wait, which sect are they from? Why do they want to see me? Zhang Xiaohu asked casually. The 2 women were travel-worn and didn't say their names. They only said they were from Rejuvenation Valley. Rejuvenation Valley? Zhang Xiaohu stared blankly for a moment before he burst into laughter. Ha ha ha, the heavenly axiom is fair. It's not that I don't want revenge, it's just that the time hasn't come yet. Once the time has come, those who have worries and those who have grievances will take revenge. Gang leader Zhang? Seeing Zhang Xiaohu like this, the disciple was shocked and exclaimed, could it be that sect leader Zhang is sick? Zhang Xiaohu was stunned. He snorted coldly and said, Humph, you didn't see anything just now. Do you know that? The disciple immediately nodded. Yes, I just reported that someone outside the villa wants to see you. That's good. Go, let those 2 girls in. Yes, disciple understands. The disciple left and muttered in his heart, good boy. This thing must be done well. I can't let Chang'e and Qinshan know about it. If they know that it was me who sent the news in, they will suffer a lot. Because this matter involved Zhang Xiaohua, Zhang Xiaohu didn't let anyone into the meeting hall. However, this confirmed the disciple's thoughts. Looking at the 2 girls, one was young. Although she wasn't very beautiful, her eyes were bright and her temperament was elegant. Although the other was cold and ignored people, she had a beautiful face and snow-white skin, which made people feel pity for her. Compared to Chang'e and Qinshan, she was much better. Sect leader Zhang. Really? The disciple praised in his heart and quietly left, not forgetting to close the door of the meeting hall. Zhang Xiaohu didn't know what the disciple was thinking. After the disciple left, he asked with a smile, are you both from Rejuvenation Valley? The beautiful girl with snow-white skin stepped forward and saluted with her hands folded. Sect leader Zhang, you don't remember me? This girl? I don't seem to have seen the disciples of Rejuvenation Valley. I wonder if this lady is little Fishnia? Oh no. Nye Xinyu? The short girl next to her, who didn't seem to have developed well, exclaimed with a surprised smile on her face. Then she blushed and felt embarrassed. Haha, I see. This girl must be Nye Xinyu. Xiaohua often mentioned you in front of me. Zhang Xiaohu struck while the iron was hot. What did he say? Nye Xinyu asked in a low voice, her face blushing. This? Zhang Xiaohu pinched his chin and said, what did he say? I'm too embarrassed to say it out loud. Anyway, he missed the happy times when you were together. Zhang Xiaohua was indeed the sect leader of the Misty School. During this period of time, she was like a fish in water. It was not without reason. Nye Xinyu was so clever. If he said too much, she would definitely find out. However, the sentence, he missed the happy times when you were together, was exactly what Nye Xinyu thought, so she took it seriously. However, the girl next to her looked as cold as ice again. Ahem, this girl? Zhang Xiaohu was stunned. He had heard Zhang Xiaohua mention Nye Xinyu from Rejuvenation Valley. How come? There was another one. Humph. The woman snorted and said, Grand Gang Leader Zhang, you're really forgetful. When I was on Shixin Peak, I told Senior Sister Qinshan about His Excellency's decree. Ah? Zhang Xiaohu was stunned. After a long while, he stammered as if he had seen a ghost. You are Zhang Pinger? Zhang Pinger nodded slightly and said, yes, I am. But, you are not in Lihua Hall on Lingxiang Peak. Why did you go to Rejuvenation Valley? Zhang Xiaohu gradually steadied his mind. He rolled his eyes and said, you're alone. If Little Flower. Oh no. Xiaoyao. Oh no, Little Flower knows. Wouldn't she be worried about you? Ren Xiaoyao will be worried about me? Zhang Pinger sneered. Of course. Zhang Xiaohu looked at Nie Qinyu and said, Xiaohua often talks about you. Zhang Pinger was not as gullible as Nie Qinyu. She asked curiously, what did Ren Xiaoyao say about me to sect leader Zhang? Well, he said you cough, very good. Zhang Xiaohu coughed twice and changed the topic. He asked, oh right, Junior. Sister Zhang, why did you go to Rejuvenation Valley? Was it Nanjingyi's arrangement? Or was it Lihua Hall's arrangement? Nanjingyi? Zhang Pinger frowned and then smiled. No, I am just a small Lihua Hall disciple. How could I enter Nanjingyi's eyes? It was your brother. I don't know if I should call him Zhang Xiaohua or Ren Xiaoyao. Xiaohua can arrange for an inner disciple of Lihua Hall to go to Rejuvenation Valley? Zhang Xiaohu was stunned. Sect leader Zhang is wrong. I was no longer a disciple of Lihua Hall at the Martial Circle Convention on Huayu Peak. Zhang Xiaohu was even more shocked. He asked curiously, What is going on? That's strange. Sect leader Zhang, doesn't senior brother often talk about me in front of you? Why? Didn't he tell you that I left Lihua Hall? Zhang Xiaohu was embarrassed. He touched his nose and said, he rarely tells me such a secret. Alas, this is very strange. It also affects Lihua Hall's reputation. Although I left Lihua Hall, I can't tarnish Lihua Hall's reputation. Sect leader Zhang, please pretend you don't know about this. Zhang Pinger was very miserable. Yes, I know. Zhang Xiaohu nodded. Sect leader Zhang, I wonder, is Xiaohua in Misty School? Nie Qinyu finally asked. Her voice was very low, but it was full of anxiety. Oh, this? Zhang Xiaohu hesitated. What? He is not here? Nie Qinyu and Zhang Pinger asked at the same time. They looked at each other and felt a little embarrassed. Then, they looked at Zhang Xiaohu together. Yes, Zhang Xiaohua is not in Misty School. Zhang Xiaohu said firmly. I see. Both of them were disappointed. They asked again. Then where did he go? Can sect leader Zhang tell us the truth? Of course. Zhang Xiaohu touched his nose and laughed in his heart. Xiaohua, I have taken my revenge today. Don't blame me. Then where did he go? Both of them asked anxiously. Oh, he went to Huanxi Villa. Zhang Xiaohu said with a smile. Huanxi Villa? Both of them looked at each other, puzzled. Nie Qinyu asked tentatively, Sect leader Zhang, where is Huanxi Villa? How far is it? Well, Zhang Xiaohu pretended to be hesitant again. Sect leader Zhang, please don't worry. We just want to ask him something. Zhang Pinger understood Zhang Xiaohu's difficulties and said sincerely. Of course, I know your relationship with Xiaohua. There is nothing to hide. Zhang Xiaohu said, Huanxi Villa is next to Ethereal Villa. It is about 4,000 feet away. But where is Ethereal Villa? 400 miles. Which direction? Zhang Pinger frowned and thought. Nie Qinyu was stunned. She looked at Zhang Xiaohu's teasing expression and smiled bitterly. Sect leader Zhang, you don't have to joke with us. When we came in just now, it seemed that there was a plaque of Ethereal Villa hanging at the door of Misty School. 4,000 feet. Isn't it just next to it? Zhang Pinger realized and blushed. She was a little angry. Seeing this, Zhang Xiaohu laughed and stood up. Let's go. You two, sisters-in-law, Xiaohua is right next to us. You can see him in a few minutes. Zhang Pinger and Nie Qinyu both blushed, but then they were overwhelmed by surprise. Is he really next to us? They were still worried. Yes, he is next to us. Zhang Xiaohu nodded. But, faction leader Zhang. Zhang Pinger's face was burning, but her eyes were calm. She said, Faction leader Zhang, please take back the words sister-in-law. If Zixia heard it, we would be ashamed. Zixia. Hearing this, Zhang Xiaohu patted his forehead. He had Chang'e and Chen Chen, But Zhang Xiaohua had Ming, Nie Qinyu, and Zhang Pinger. How could he bear it? Please cast a monthly vote. Please cast a recommendation vote. Please collect. Please tip. Thank you. 4. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.